she didn't pity the girl who'd been part of the gang that had made her high school life a living hell. Lena hadn't been the worst. Beautiful bitchy Bella Reed had been, with her constant attempts to make Clara fall on her face or spilling things on her. But Lena had been distinctly unpleasant. Oh, don't worry guys, she wasn't as bad as her best friend, so it's fine. What kind of idiocy is that? I feel like if you're gonna commit to this shit, you need to stand 10 toes down. You need to say it with your chest. And the authors of these never do. Hi everybody and welcome back to my channel. My name is Shelby and this is Shelby Reads, where we talk about sapphic books all year long. For those of you new to my channel, I am a femme for butch lesbian who came out in 2013 and I'm a dedicated goth. Hooray. I hope you all like, comment, subscribe, and join us for the month of February where we're doing all romances. Now, they might be mixed with some other genres. I think we had Thrown to the Wolves last week, which was a crime romance. We're having this one, which is just a regular contemporary romance. Then we're having a suspense romance, and then I think we're having one more regular degular romance. And since it's brand new, I just want to mention again to everybody who might not have seen the last video, I'm gonna try to put it on the community tab sometime this week too. I have a Google submission form where you can submit terrible sapphic books that I might potentially read at some point. I have content scheduled, I think through March, at least the ideas. They're not done yet, but I'm getting there. But after that, we're gonna have to see. I have some more terrible books that I think they'll be terrible, but sometimes they'll surprise me. You never know. So today we're talking about Been There, Found You, which is described as a sweet enemies to lovers, opposites attract sapphic romance by Cameron Tate. Here is the synopsis. Messy rich girl plus coffee shop snark plus slow burn sapphic tension equals the perfect pour. Mean girl Lena James never expected to be working a minimum wage job at Been There, Done That after her family's financial collapse. Even worse, her supervisor is Clara Brown, the girl she and her friends relentlessly mocked throughout high school. As Lena reluctantly learns the ropes from her newfound boss, their mutual contempt slowly transforms into something neither expected. But when Lena discovers that the coffee shop is in danger of closing and her parents plan to leave town, she must decide what and who she's willing to risk everything for. Can two girls from opposite sides of the social divide find common ground over steamed milk and a second chance? Been There, Found You is a sweet, sapphic, enemies to lovers, rich girl slash poor girl workplace romance with lots of heart. I feel like there were a lot of buzzwords. I really do. You guys all know how we roll. I'm gonna give some disclaimers and then some trigger warnings. Number one, this video is not for the author, for stands of this author's work. If you really enjoyed this book specifically, you might not love everything I have to say about it. Number two, we will be going over all of the spoilers, so if you don't want spoilers, come back later, okay? Number three, I'm not bashing sapphic books. I think we deserve all varying qualities of sapphic books. However, I deserve to be able to rant on the internet about things I find annoying or don't like, just as straight women, bi women, even men are allowed to on the internet. I'm allowed to do that too. If you don't like that, you can scoot boo. And quite honestly, I didn't completely hate this book, but I did not love it either. Trigger warnings: bullying, cursing, emotional abuse, classism. The trigger warnings are provided by me, so I will come back in if there's anything I missed. I was hoping there would be more trigger warnings on Storygraph, but it was me who put them there, so I will update as needed. Okay, we're going to start with my frustration over this book to begin with. So, everyone who's been on my channel for long enough knows that I am an enemies to lovers connoisseur. It is my favorite trope. Unironically, I mean it. However, I don't read the synopses for books before I just read them because I don't like things to be spoiled. I like it to kind of go out naturally. However, it is literally in the title of the ebook, Sweet Enemies to Lovers, Opposites Attract, Sapphic Romance, which that's a choice for sure. I do think it's odd and certainly not for me to have like the tropes in the title. I already don't like them in the synopsis. I don't need them in the title, but it's actually because they were in the title that I got mad. Now, I guess you can argue that a bully romance is a version of enemies to lovers. However, I look for very specific things when it comes to enemies to lovers that bully romance cannot satisfy. Okay, now this is just me personally. However, I kind of felt like this was a problem in Trisix Venom, also one of my first rant reviews, and the first one that was 2 parts. I'm not one of those people who's going to complain and say, hey, there's kind of a power imbalance, because if you know my favorite series, The Locked Tomb, at least in the first book, there is a steep power imbalance that I think over the series kind of gets flipped, which is very interesting. I think that's an interesting way to do things. However, I still wouldn't be comfortable calling that a bully romance between the two of them because they're not really bullying. I don't know. Like, is snarking back and forth bullying now? I don't think so. And it's not as though Gideon in the first book didn't give as good as she got. She certainly did. And we learn even more about that in Harrow's book. So it's not the power imbalance of bully romance that bothers me deeply. I think it's the connotations with the real world and real world events. And we're going to talk about why I think it also doesn't work well in this book in the slightest. That's my opinion. However, we know that I like to be candid on my page because I do. I like to be candid. I was bullied quite extensively after I moved school districts from about 5th grade until, I mean, all the way through high school, honestly. Like, it lessened towards the end of high school, but it was still kind of always a presence in my life. And bullying at no point ever felt super prime territory to become Romanceville. So I think we also have to admit that enemies to lovers is very different because enemies to lovers doesn't kill anyone. Bullying kills people. I feel a certain type of way, especially when it is contemporary romance and it's like, oh yeah, they were bullies. Not that they were like sports rivals, not that they were like some kind of convoluted, like, a good example, I Kiss Shara Wheeler by Casey McQuiston. They are academic rivals. They are cutthroat about being valedictorian. That was fine. There wasn't bullying in that one. This one, it's not good. It's, ooh. So I'm at a loss for words because someone sat down and wrote this and was like, yes, this is the one. I'm like, honey, I don't think it is. But I have my coffee and we're gonna get going. So we start with chapter 1 with our bully, Lena. Lena James, before all of the events of this book, was the it girl, very popular girl, part of this group of very rich girls. She's super materialistic. That's something that you will see very quickly. And she and her group of girls bullied people. Yeah, and you're like, oh, Shelby, well, is it a significant amount of time after high school? No, it is not. Anyway, she's upset because her family has lost all of their money through some bad investments, and now she has like cheap makeup instead of Dior, and she has to wear, well, she doesn't immediately, but she will eventually wear cheaper clothes. She keeps telling herself that this is all temporary. Ooh. Also, I just want to say that makeup products last a really long time. She has leftover clothes from when she was rich. She doesn't have leftover makeup. I don't believe that. Her dad basically announced that they're going to have to change a lot of things, make some cutbacks. They're not giving her allowance anymore, and they sold her car to help pay for things. And a few things turns out to be most of their things, including their summer house in the Hamptons, her mom's collection of designer bags, their country club membership, and her BMW. And she's very immature. So she had screamed and stomped her feet and given her parents death glares, but none of it had worked. Yeah. But she thinks to herself, at least she made it through graduation without anyone noticing because they only sold the most expensive of her handbags. She still has a closet full of designer clothes. And she's been very vague about the entire thing with her best friend, Bella, but she literally calls her her supposed best friend. But she's her biggest competitor in pretty much everything. And she's trying to make drugstore makeup look expensive. So here's the real tea. Okay, as someone who's a very big makeup enthusiast, high-end stuff doesn't work better than drugstore. At least not now. Maybe back in the day it did, back in the 2010s or even earlier. Not now. A lot of these things are made at the same factory with the same shit. Like, a lot of the inexpensive companies too are trying to dupe the expensive ones on purpose. Like, I think about a lot of e.l.f. lines. We don't use e.l.f. anymore. I'm just using up the crap I have, and then we don't talk about e.l.f. because of the Matt Rife situation. But they made a whole line that was basically kind of ripping off Charlotte Tilbury, and everyone loves those products. So I know it's to contrast how out of touch she is with everything. However, it's just not real. It's fabricated. But Bella is texting her and being like, you seriously got a job? And she just says it's temporary, and Bella is quite rude and is like, oh, so you're poor now? And she's like, we're not poor now. She's like, babe, if you're getting minimum wage, you're poor. Can't really argue with that, honestly. I've somehow never been paid minimum wage. Knock on wood everywhere. She is dressed totally inappropriately for her first shift at this coffee shop, but don't worry, she's gonna find that out pretty soon. Throughout the entire time we're talking, she is very materialistic. She is still talking about the brands of the things she owns. As a lifelong poor, I don't get it. And she has to ride the bus, which she hates.
You really should have thought of that before you became peasants.
But in the middle of the bus, on the way to this job, she sees our other main character, Clara Brown. Of course, she still looked exactly like Lena remembered from high school. After all, it was just weeks ago. Her shoulder-length chestnut hair pulled back in a practical ponytail, no makeup except maybe some mascara. Probably drugstore brand, but on her it wasn't a step down. Wearing a plain black t-shirt that could have come from anywhere. Her jeans weren't the hip sort of washed out, they were just ... old. For a moment, Lena felt a flash of her old confidence. At least I look better than Clara Brown. The thought was automatic, comfortable, like slipping into a favorite sweater. So these types of people are actually deeply insecure. I mean, a lot of times they're also just plain mean, but a lot of these people are also insecure. I think a lot of us have this idea that most rich people who walk around like this are just terrible narcissists who can't think of anyone except themselves, when the reality of the situation is a lot of times they're either deeply insecure and or mean, terrible people who are deeply unsatisfied with their life. I hate the phrase money can't buy happiness, but to a certain extent, it's true. Money can't make people like you. Money can make people pretend they like you. Money can't buy taste, but it can buy expensive things. And she just sneers at Clara's like, of course you ride the public transport. Like, public transport is disgusting. Excuse me, the people's mayor, Zohran Mamdani, rides public transport. So I don't want to hear it. And have you seen his wife? Classiest woman I've seen in a long time. Clara just looks at her and goes, apparently so do you. And I was like, ooh. And Lena feels deeply ashamed about not being a dick, but about being called out and being poor. And she just kind of has this thought cycle of, this wasn't how it was supposed to be. Yeah, rich people always say that when they suddenly become poor. We then go over the Regina George-ass comments she's said to Clara over their high school career. What's that? The Target spring sale from 2014? Wow, love what you've done with your hair, ... Or, you know, not done with it. Oh my god, isn't that the same backpack you've had since freshman year? That thing deserves a retirement party. Now it just made her look ... practical, put together. Like someone who knew who she was and didn't need $400 jeans to prove it. See, deeply insecure.
You're insecure. You're insecure. You're insecure, you're insecure.
They get to downtown and they both get off at the same spot because, as the synopsis says, they're going to be working together. She just keeps telling herself that it's going to be temporary though. Chapter 2, Clara. She's riding high from her little comment back at, you know, Lena. But it wasn't as good of a barb as you wish it was, but if this is your first time standing up to her, fine. We'll allow it this one time. Clara puts together that Lena probably got some kind of job, but she cannot figure out what kind of job. She thinks maybe she's a model for some kind of chic boutique or something, and that she certainly has the look and figure for it. Oh lord. Not that Clara had even noticed Lena's looks. Never. Except anyone with eyes would see how pretty she is. She shook her head to herself. Maybe it's because I care more about substance than just what people look like, and maybe I've also been forced to only care about that more because not pretty. I'm not fishing for compliments, it's just kind of reality for me, okay? I know how I grew up. I know that the main complaints were about my looks for some fucking reason, and then the rest of them were about my interests. However, being that attracted to people who go out of their way to be extra mean to you is kind of weird. And I think mean women can be hot, but not necessarily in this way. Can't really explain why. I think it's the bullying, perhaps. She goes in and her manager, Jordan, is like, okay, what has you in such a good mood? And she's like, just an interesting bus ride. And he's like, hey, do you remember that the owner's friend called in a favor? And she's like, yeah. Her mind was still on the bus, on how satisfying it had felt to finally have the upper hand with Lena James. 4 years of subtle jabs and condescending smiles, and all it took was one well-timed comeback, too. So I wrote in my notes, nothing about this has been subtle. She hasn't had subtle insults. She's just been straight up insulting you and how you look the entire time and what you wear and you being poor. But he's like, yeah, okay, so that guy's kid needs a job for the summer. Will you be okay to train them? It's some kind of financial situation. And she says, yeah, sure, it can't be any worse than that guy from last month who thought cold brew was just coffee with ice in it. I'm about to display my ignorance. What is the difference? I just don't know. I know that you brew it, but it's cold. I know that thought process, but to me, then you put ice in it and then it just becomes an iced coffee. My brain doesn't understand. I'm also sad because my Trader Joe's cold brew, like instant cold brew, is running out and they don't make it anymore and I want to lose it. People leave weird comments on my shorts. It makes me not want to post shorts anymore. Whatever. Anyway, and she hears the door open. She's ready to have her customer service face on, but then it's Lena James is there. And she says, you've got to be kidding me. And Jordan's like, do you two know each other? And she's like, yeah, from high school. And she's very upset because Lena is in her space, in her territory. She's not happy about it. And she also thinks about how what Lena is wearing is not appropriate to work in a coffee shop. But she also thinks this shit. She was breathtakingly beautiful, just like she'd always been. The very definition of how beauty on the outside didn't make one beautiful on the inside. And I just wrote in my notes, do authors think I'm stupid? Like, do I have stupid written across my forehead? What do you... I know, we've established she's mean. Like, God. And Lena's like, oh my God, you work here. And Clara's like, obviously. She turns to Jordan and says, I've got this. Why don't you fix the display that's bothering you? And he's like, are you sure? And she's like, of course. And she thinks to herself, this could be good. I'll basically be her boss for a few days. If you say so, it doesn't get as petty as I feel it should. So Jordan leaves them. Here, Clara doubted Lena would be able to come up with a cutting remark about Clara's lack of designer clothes or social life or about how nerdy she was. At least she doesn't know my biggest secret. She'd have a field day with that. Clara had known her preference for women since freshman year, but kept it private, sharing it only with Naomi and a couple of other trusted friends, always terrified it would get out there for Lena and Bella and the others to cut vicious comments about. Yay! So like, I don't see how this is romantic because she thought that Lena would be fucking homophobic on top of everything else. And I think one of the big things I don't understand about this as a bully romance is that Lena and her friends bullied Clara for 4 whole years. 4 whole years. How long has it been since high school? A couple of weeks. A couple of weeks. The timeline about is one of the main things that make me angry. But whatever. Clara is worried if Lena finds out, but she's like, well, if she finds out, I'm among friends and she's not. Whatever you say, girl, you can still be hate crimed quickly before your friends realize. Just saying. Clara says, we should get started. We have a lot to go over. And she's like, so I'm gonna be your trainer. I trust there won't be a problem with that. Lena scowled. No, why would being bossed around by you be a problem? Because you're a spoiled brat who isn't used to anyone telling you what to do. She thinks that's in italics. Clara raised an eyebrow at her. We expect colleagues to treat each other well. I'll play nice nerd. A nerd who's currently higher than you in the hierarchy, Clara snapped. Tell me, how does that make you feel? See, I feel like she should have gone a lot harder on the like getting vengeance type thing. If it had been more of a John Tucker must die situation, I think I could have been okay with it because you got real tangible vengeance. However, it's not here. It's nowhere to be found. She tells her to fill out the paperwork and says we have to go over the dress code, which I need you to pay close attention to. Then while Clara's watching her fill out the form, she thinks this. Throughout high school, Clara had dreamed about seeing Lena James brought low. She'd imagined it would feel better than this. Yet watching Lena struggle with basic employment paperwork just felt ... strange. Like seeing a tiger in a petting zoo. Wrong. But she didn't pity the girl who'd been part of the gang that made her high school life a living hell. Lena hadn't been the worst. Beautiful bitchy Bella Reed had been, with her constant attempts to make Clara fall on her face or spilling things on her. But Lena had been distinctly unpleasant. Oh, don't worry guys, she wasn't as bad as her best friend, so it's fine. What kind of idiocy is that? I feel like if you're gonna commit to this shit, you need to stand 10 toes down. You need to say it with your chest. And the authors of these never do. They then get in a little squabble over Lena's blouse and how it's not really acceptable for the work they're doing. And Lena does not understand what's wrong with the blouse. And she's like, well, there's nothing wrong with it if you're heading to brunch, but there's everything wrong with it when you're learning how to take care of 300 customers' dishes. And she gives her the 2 t-shirts t-shirts that have their logo. You each get 2 apparently. I don't feel like that's enough, but okay. She also said you need to wear closed-toed shoes and wear nothing you care about. And shorts and skirts need to reach the knee. She also says that manicure won't last a day, and Lena says they cost, and she's like, I'm sure it was very expensive. I'm not going to ruin them. I'm just saying that the job will. And while again Lena is continuing to fill out another form, Clara decides to text her best friend Naomi to tell her, because she's like, hey, remember how I told you I saw Lena James on the bus? Yeah, she's actually working here now. And her best friend is like, please tell me you're making her life hell. A girl can dream, but Clara's never as mean as she should be. And she replies to Naomi, I don't really have to. She's doing that all on her own. And then Lena asks what a dependent is, and Clara's like, 0 unless you have a kid I don't know about. And she's like, of course I don't. If any of us would have a kid, it'd be you. Lena said, eyes narrowing. Why? Because I don't come from money, so therefore I have to end up a teen mom? Clara asked. I'm not the one going through boyfriends like they were underwear. I just want to say that in the climate of anti-abortion city, that rich people will always have better access to that kind of stuff. So is it really the poor person's fault? No. But there is something to be said about why it shakes down that way. The billionaires want little worker bees, but the rich ladies get to pick when they have kids and the most opportune time. Just saying. And then Lena's like, at least I've had boyfriends. You're just sad and lonely. And she's like, yeah, well then where's your rich boyfriend to save you from this terrible job? And Jordan's like, are you two ready? Because I need some help out here. And Clara's gonna give her the basic tour.
Do you want the house tour?
And she's gonna have Lena shadow her with the drink orders today. And she's like, you'll watch and hopefully learn, because she doesn't know what the word shadow means. She's like, but that might be too much to hope for. And Lena's like, I can learn. I'm not an idiot. Debatable. I think Clara's the real idiot, but okay. She shows her around. It's a coffee shop. I'm not gonna go over it. Boring. Ready? Clara asked without expecting an answer. Lena squared her shoulders, lifting her chin. Not like I have much of a choice, right? More of a choice than I had sitting through 4 years of your comments about my Target jeans, Clara said. Play nice or you're not going to get to stay. She wasn't sure which she was hoping for. A summer of putting Lena in her place or trying to make her quit within the week. Fair enough. Next chapter is called In the DMs. So there are some of these that are they're just texts. They just read like bubble texts and that's it. So it's Lena talking to her friend Madison, who is distinctly less awful than the rest of them. And she goes over how Clara Brown is her boss. And Madison also asks if she's going to Tyler's party on Friday, but she can't because she's working. She's like, did you know Bella's telling everyone that your dad is like bankrupt or something? And she's like, tell Bella she can ask me herself. She's that curious. And her friend Madison says one thing that is funny, which is, you're so bravely, like when people become monks and give up all their possessions, so inspirational. Chapter 3, we're back with Lena. Her whole body hurts because she's not used to manual labor. Get over it. Clara tells her she's on dishes today, and Lena says, oh fun, but she thinks that this is so far below her, so far beneath her. She needs the money, but she also needs dignity. She's introduced to someone named Maya who works here extra sometimes. Maya barely is mentioned in this entire book, so not really worth talking about. And Clara is going to show Lena how to run the dishwasher. And she thinks snarky things like, right, because apparently 4 years of AP classes hasn't prepared me for the complex task of loading a dishwasher. So at least in my school, you couldn't take AP classes all 4 years. Couldn't do it, just so you know. And Clara really goes step by step about all this crap. And Lena, Clara added, already turning back to the espresso machine. Try not to break anything. This is an independent coffee shop and we don't have exorbitant amounts of money to buy new cups. No, because you're all poor like me now. Damn it, she thinks to herself. Ugh. Also, it's just not great to like lose things you need for the job all the time. Like imagine if every time I did dog walking, which I do on the side, I lost a poop bag holder and bought a new one every time. That would be ridiculous. But Lena is watching Clara work a little bit during this at the same time, and she thinks she's kind of graceful. Graceful? This was supposed to be the same Clara who used to hunch her shoulders and hurry through the school cafeteria with her head down. Once Lena had caught her crying in the bathroom after a particularly sassy comment about her hair, and yet here she looked at home. And then the dishwasher buzzes and Lena jumps, and Claire says, that means it's done. and you might want to unload it before the next round of dirty dishes shows up. And Lena thinks, like, I need directions on every single thing, except she continues to prove that she does need directions on every single thing. And she tries to pick them up with her bare hands, and she's like, hey, use the heat-resistant gloves, you idiot. And she watches how Clara is, like, really familiar with the locals, and she just thinks that none of this is right. The whole world is upside down, blah, blah, blah. More entitled rich girl thoughts. But she thinks to herself, like, because a cute guy comes in, she's like, when did Clara Brown learn how to talk to cute guys? I mean, she's getting paid to talk to them. I hate when people act like the fake customer service confidence that you force yourself to have is real. I think in some ways customer service jobs were easier for me than what I do now, because there are rules. There are rules about how you fake it. There are rules about what you do, and it's not the same in other fields at all. So I don't know. I feel like the rules are pretty cut and dry and easy to follow, but that's just me. A customer knocks over a mug and Claire is like, I've got it, but Jordan is like, hey, you've got a line starting to form, I'm just gonna deal with it. And she turns back to Lena and says, hey, we need more clean cups, like hurry it up. And Lena is like, I'm working on it, but it's apparently too complicated, even though she had that whole speech about AP classes in her head. And Claire's like, just hand wash a couple then, like please hurry it up. And the morning rush is starting to hit, and Lena is just completely falling apart. Like whatever system she had is not working, even though the dishwasher is like only a 2-minute cycle, so this is ridiculous. But she has time to think snarky ass shit like this, so she can't be doing too poorly. And Clara would probably have done it all with a smile and having time to sign autographs for her adoring fans at the same time, Lena thought bitterly. If you say so, girl. But thankfully Lena's brain is also telling her inside as she's watching Clara with the regulars and how she remembers all these things about them, like, well, you've made fun of her for years, shut up. And I'm like, yeah, you have, you're a bully. What the fuck are we talking about? Jordan's like, hey Lena, are you okay? You look like a little, and Lena's like, I'm fine, but she snaps it. She's like, I'm just trying to keep up, okay? Like she like feels bad about snapping a bit. And he's like, hey, like if you sort them first and do cups with cups, plates with plates, it makes loading a lot faster. Right. Like she couldn't have figured that out herself. Like I need everyone in this place telling me how to do every little thing, except you're not doing anything right, so clearly they do need to tell you. You've never had a job before. You don't know what the hell you're doing. And then her mean best friend slash frenemy Bella comes in and says, you really are working here. And she's like, when Madison told me, I totally didn't believe her. And she's like, I thought you were joking. And Lena's like, not now, Bella. Like what happened seriously? And Claire's like, hey, can I help you with something? There's a line forming. And Bella turns to Claire, is like, oh yeah, you work here too, right, Cleo? Or whatever it is, always in clothes from last year's Target line. And she's like, what is your order? And Bella's like, God, whatever. And then she goes to Lena, is like, text me later. We're going to the club this weekend. Daddy can probably get you in as my guest. And Clara says, she's working this weekend. Order now or leave. You're holding up the entire line. And she's like, oh, whatever. I'm not actually here for the coffee. This place is just ... dirty. And she walks out. Lena's face burned as she attacked the dishes with renewed vigor. She didn't need Clara fighting her battles. She didn't need Clara doing anything for her. Sure, if you say so. Maybe if you had been friends with people who weren't terrible people, you wouldn't need your old high school classmate who you bullied relentlessly for 4 years sticking up for you. Just a thought. And Jordan says, hey, can you take your break, Lena? Like, I'll cover the dishes for 15 minutes. And she wants to protest, but her arms are feeling like lead and her head is pounding. So she collapses in the break room and she sees 3 texts from Bella. And it's just like, wow, Clara Brown giving orders and you're listening to her? Call me when you're done playing Burbista. Seriously, what happened to your dad's money? They lost it, obviously. Why is everyone in this book so stupid? But she tells herself she can do this and that she has to do this if she wants any money to spend from the foreseeable future. But she's gonna hate every second of it. So let's theoretically just say that she makes minimum wage, which is $7.25 an hour, in case people forgot. Like, that's the federal minimum wage. That's also the state minimum wage for the state of New Hampshire. Just so you guys are aware. You are doing that, even if you're doing that 40 hours a week. Can't believe I'm making myself do math. Stay in school, kids. You're taking home $1,160 a month before taxes. That's not enough to buy any of the shit that she's used to. Maybe like one item for 1 month, maybe, but even then, like, probably no. Also, we never really learn what she's spending the money on, so it is a bit confusing. Chapter 4, Clara. It's been 4 days of training Lena, and Clara is ready to strangle her, direct quote. Like, yes, she picks things up quickly when she deigns to try, but every task comes with an eye roll or a snide comment. She treats the coffee shop like it's beneath her. They're closing and it is 9:47 p.m. So that's an insane amount of hours for a coffee shop. Let's just say they're open normal coffee shop hours, which would be 5 a.m. to almost 10 p.m. Insanity. But Lena has been making everyone miserable since about 9 o'clock. And Jordan is telling her to take out the trash, and Lena's saying, you've got to be kidding me. These are A-gold jeans. I'm not touching those bags. And Clara says, I don't care. You're taking out the trash. She says, I am not. And Clara's like, okay, then you're out of a job, which she's not like her real manager. So I don't know why she gets to say that. And Lena says, well, if this place had proper closing staff, and she's like, we are the closing staff. And she says, these jeans cost more than what you make in a week. Okay, then sell them. That's my opinion, then sell them. And Clara shoots back at her, and it's more than you make in a week too, or did daddy's credit card start working again? Oh. And Lena's like, screw you, Clara. And Lena is like, screw you, Clara, just because you get off on being Miss Little Perfect Barista. And Clara says, well, at least I work for what I want instead of waiting for someone to hand it to me. Okay, we're gonna get into hot take territory that I don't care about. I think working is a scam. I think capitalism is a scam. I think that this whole system needs to be burnt to the ground. We have more resources than we have people. Like, we could feed everyone on earth if we wanted to. We could give people universal basic income. We could stop charging people insane amounts for like student loans, housing loans, all of this crazy ass shit if we just stopped feeling so greedy. So I also feel at the same time this like, well, at least I work for what I have. I understand that sometimes you have to take pride in what you do in order to get by or whatever, like in your own brain. However, no work under this terrible capitalist system is actually all that meaningful or inspiring, because if you think about it for longer than a couple of minutes, you realize that all of this was worthless. It was pointless. It didn't mean anything. Like, I worked in a grocery store for 7 years. Did I help people get some of their groceries by putting it on the shelf sometimes? Yeah. Or scanning it or doing whatever I was doing because I switched a couple different departments. Yeah, sure, I guess. But, and are those necessary jobs? Yeah. Are they fulfilling? Do they feel meaningful? Do they feel worth the tiny amount of money you make? No. No, it doesn't. And it never will, because the CEO is laughing his way all the way to the bank because Jeff Bezos has more money than God. Like, I just feel like this, I'm gonna die on this hill that at least I work hard for what I get. You shouldn't have to. Nobody should. I don't think there should be any Lena Jameses, but I also don't think that you should have to be working yourself to death to earn whatever you have. It's annoying. And maybe it's because I'm 30 and not fresh out of high school, but I believe that if people are just gonna hand you money, Nepo baby or daddy's little angel, you should just take the money. Most of us will never have that opportunity in life. Most of us will never know what it is to be debt free. Most of us will never know what it is to feel comfortable and safe and happy money wise. So like, it's so stupid and contrived. And Lena's like, right though, like this is exactly what you wanted, slaving away in a coffee shop, living the dream. And she's like, take the trash out. And she's like, okay, fine. And then she tries, but it slaps against her jeans. And so she's like, oh, I cannot do this. And Claire's like, the door's over there. I'm sure they're looking for people to work at McDonald's, which I feel like is such a crazy drag because the McDonald's near me do pay better than the coffee shops do. They pay $16 to $20 an hour. So how about you take that attitude to the door? But Lena's like, this is ridiculous. I shouldn't even be here this late. Don't you people have a concept of reasonable hours? And I have to say, yeah, the shift change is not being well done, obviously, because someone shouldn't be there from theoretically, let's even just say 6 in the morning till 10 p.m. That's absurd. That's absurd. So I feel like it has to be against some kind of labor laws, right? I actually don't know, because in New Hampshire at my job, you're allowed to work like an insane amount of hours in a row. However, that's care job. So like, it's kind of very different. Like someone always has to be there, but I don't know. And Clara's like, you people, do you mean working class people? Sorry, we're not all living on daddy's dime. Oh wait, except working class people should not be expected to be from open to close every single fucking day. I don't care if you get nice tips. I don't care. That's absurd. Working class people deserve to rest too. Pisses me off. Anyway, he's like, hey ladies, Jordan is. He's like, I'd like to get out of here before midnight, so less talking, more closing and cleaning. And he's like, Lena, take out the trash or I won't pay you. And you're not coming back tomorrow. She's glaring at him, but she does it anyway. Great, Lena said, another check of her phone. And now the bus is being diverted for construction because this night needed to get worse. Poor you, Clara said, having to deal with public transit inconveniences like the rest of us peasants. Some of us had lives before this, Lena shot back, but I guess you wouldn't know anything about that. And Jordan is done. And he's like, I've had enough. You guys get out. I don't want someone to commit a homicide. He's like, including me, because I'm about to commit double homicide. Fair enough. Oh, you okay? You okay? She was reverse sneezing. Poor Gigi. Oh, is it raining out? Why are you wet? They leave and there's some drunk guys from a bar who are trying to follow them. And Claire's like, oh, maybe they won't notice us. But of course they do. And Lena, her tough bitch attitude does kind of work for this because she's just like, we're not interested. Move along. And they're like, we're just trying to be friendly. She says, friendly, please. I wouldn't get a drink with you if you were the last men on earth. Now get out of the way before I call the cops and report you for harassment. My dad's got the police commissioner on speed dial. It does work though. I mean, is she being a Karen? Yeah, sure. Did it work? Also, yes. I like those TikTok videos where like just act crazy and they won't want anything to do with you. Just start acting crazy. And Lena catches Clara staring and she's like, what? She's like, some of us know how to handle ourselves. She's like, right, because you have so much practice with dealing with drunk guys on dark streets. I mean, she goes to the rich people high school parties, so basically the same thing. They're just not on the street. They're in someone's house. She's like, let me guess, not a lot of parties in honor society. And she's like, sorry, I was actually working for a living instead of working on my drunk guy management skills. I'm like, I don't feel like the banter was bantering at any point in this. Clara also does something nice for some old guy and points him in the direction of the correct bus because of the construction going on. And Lena's like, you just get off on being the nice girl, don't you? She's like, I call it just being a decent human being. She's like, and I'm not one. She's like, I'm sure you have your moments, just not ones that I've seen. And she thinks of her saying to her, Clara, you could totally be in a rom-com, you know, as the before girl in the makeover montage. Yeah, I feel like none of this is subtle. None of this is like, I feel like what they're trying to imply is that she was a lot like Regina George with the like, oh my God, I love your skirt. And then she like turns around and is like, that skirt is fugly as hell. Like, that's not what's happening. Like, she's always just been a one-note mean girl. Okay. And Lena's like, how does it feel having the upper hand and bossing me around now? Like, I'm sure you've dreamed of it ever since high school. It's only been a couple of weeks since high school. Can we stop pretending like that's ancient history? It's not. Claire's like, you have no idea what my dreams are. And she texts Naomi quick to just be like, she's terrible still. And then there's this. But as Clara put her phone away, she caught Lena's reflection again. For just a moment when Lena thought no one was looking, her confident mask slipped. Her shoulders sagged as she pushed a wayward strand of hair from her face. Then she noticed Clara watching and her features hardened again into their usual sneer. Clara faced forward, grinding her teeth. I don't care if she's struggling. It's not like she ever cared about me. And that's where this book, in my fucking opinion, should have ended. Because it doesn't make any sense to start dating the person who tormented you not even that long ago for 4 whole years. And then we get this right before the chapter ends. But as she walked quickly home, phone still in her hand, she tried not to think about how for one split second back there with the guys, Lena James had helped her. It would, no doubt, never happen again. I wouldn't say she helped you so much as she was helping herself also not be harassed by drunk guys. Remember, like, they were harassing both of you. Okay. We then get one of these in the DM things, and it's just her talking about the drunk guy situation. And her friend Naomi's like, hey, why couldn't you have done that for yourself? And she's like, well, you know, I freeze up in those kinds of situations. She's like, okay, so Queen Lee just swooped in to save you then. She's like, it wasn't like that. It's just some stupid banter or whatever. Anywho, chapter 5. Lena is on register today, and Clara says, I'll be on bar, but I won't be able to hold your hand for every single transaction. And Lena thinks to herself, good thing, since your idea of holding hands is more like hovering and criticizing every little thing I do. Yeah, maybe because you've never worked a day in your life. Again, like, you cannot make me empathize with rich people, even if they were just former rich people. You can't make me do it. But she tells herself, I've spent 4 years pretending to care about student council meetings and pep rallies. I can pretend to care about this. Exactly. You just have to channel that ridiculous, like, I'm pretending to care about this. But then with a medium cappuccino, extra dry, this happens. Lena turned to grab the cup, not realizing Clara was reaching for the same one. Their fingers brushed and Lena nearly dropped the cup altogether. Clara was suddenly close, too close, her body heat noticeable in the small space behind the counter. I'm gonna need you to calm down. I'm gonna need you to calm down. You have bullied her relentlessly. See, I kind of understand Lena falling for Clara more than Clara falling for Lena, because I do feel people who are bullies are delusional like that. I do think that they can make themselves the star of the show. I do think they can just flip on a dime and be like, you know what, actually, I'm into this, but I don't think it's as easy the other way around. And they apologize to each other. And Lena's having a hard time because when she's with the customer, she feels like they're trying to customize their drink to oblivion. Half of them are on their phones. They barely bother to look up while they're just listing the things they want. And she just thinks, I used to be you a month ago. I was exactly like you. And yeah, if that's irritating you now, you should think about that. You should think about that as someone who's worked customer service before. You should think about that shit. I think one of my perfect autistic jobs for me, by the way, would be working in a coffee shop, but I don't have to talk to anyone. Like, I'm the person who makes the drinks and I have headphones on. I just never talk to anyone. Someone give me that, please. Ugh. I can just listen to audiobooks, even though audiobook is my least preferred method because of my ADHD to read books, but that's just me, okay? I have inattentive ADHD, so it makes it difficult. I also definitely have some kind of audio processing problem because, like, I've been speaking French since I was in like 5th grade, and I have like, I'd say medium working proficiency at this point because I dropped it for a lot of years and now I'm coming back to it. When someone is speaking French near me, in one ear, out the other, and like when I have to watch shows that are even in English, I put subtitles on because I don't know what anyone's saying. Maybe if people didn't mumble so much in TV, I wouldn't have a problem. She's getting irritated by people asking for certain things because like he wants sugar-free caramel syrup and she's like, caramel's supposed to have sugar. I understand that, but some people have dietary problems as to why they're not having the real thing. Mind your business. Lena punched in the order, remembering how she used to make similarly ridiculous requests back when she thought the world existed to cater to her whims. She glanced at Clara, who was efficiently working through the drink queue. Much as Lena hated to admit it, there was something almost impressive about the way she handled multiple orders at once, never getting flustered or making mistakes. Not that Lena would ever say that out loud. She'd rather drink straight espresso. Blech. Okay, girl. And one of Lena's other friends is now online. It's her friend Madison, who is not as big of a dick. She's like, I can't believe you're actually working here. And she's like, I told you I was. And she's like, yeah, but I didn't believe you. Like, I thought it was a joke. And she tries to be like, what can I get for you? But she's thinking, please go away. And she's like, no, seriously, what happened? But she thinks that the concern seems to be actually real from Maddie, where it wasn't from Bella. And she's like, you said something about your dad's business, but like, are you okay? Like, this is crazy. Do you remember how we used to make fun of? And she's like, hey, what's your order? There's a line backing up behind you. Madison's eyes widened slightly. Right, I guess I'll have a skinny vanilla latte. This is so weird. Should I even be ordering from you? Like, is that rude? What's rude is you standing here acting like I'm a zoo exhibit. She doesn't say that as a thought. She's like, size. And Lena's just trying to get through the interaction now, and she's telling her exactly what the price is and all that. And she's like, hey, we're meeting at the Reserve tonight. Like, Daddy got us a table. You should come. I'm sure everyone would cover your like, and she's like, hey, do you want a receipt? She's like, seriously, but like, text me later. This whole thing is like weird. And Lena's like, next in line, because she doesn't want to deal with this anymore, which I do kind of feel bad about, because even if Madison is like a rich girl like everybody else, she doesn't seem to actually be mean. So I don't understand this. I mean, I guess she's hanging out with these people, so how nice can she really be? But at the same time, like, to me, she feels like Karen from Mean Girls, like much less actually mean and more like, oh my god, like, is this rude? I can't tell. But don't worry, Bella is here, and she's like, you're still here? Really? And she tries to get her to just start her order, and she's like, this is absolutely tragic. Like, look at her in her apron. Is this what poor people really wear to work? Yes, it's called a uniform, and you rich people who are all the way at the top of that crap make us do it. You're welcome. It's the only good thing about my job is I can pretty much wear whatever I want. It's literally the only good thing. Clara appeared at Lena's side, setting down a drink for another customer with more focus than necessary. Order or leave, you're holding up the line. I don't need your help, Lena wanted to scream. Instead, she forced her retail smile wide. What'll it be, Bella? And Bella's like, God, you even sound like one of them now. It's like, I can't even watch this. This is too sad. Maddie, let's go to Starbucks instead. It's like, at least they have automated ordering so we don't have to watch our friends deteriorate into the help. I mean, without the help, you'd have to do everything yourself. So I can't relate to any rich people ever. No, you can't have coffee. He's trying to steal my coffee. You can't have coffee. You can't have coffee. It's gone anyway. Stop being a butthole. Stop being a widow butthole. So silly. Anyway, Lena is super embarrassed by this entire interaction, and some old guy asked for a black coffee. Your total is $3.25, she said, forcing her tone to be pleasant, as if she hadn't just been publicly humiliated by her former friends. Well, now maybe you have a small taste of what Clara got from you, and I'm sure countless other girls, let's be honest, for 4 years of high school. I don't feel bad for you. She only had 2 mishaps, so she did a pretty good job on register. Not terrible, Clara said, wiping down the espresso machine, for your first solo run. The condescension in her voice made Lena want to scream. 4 years of high school, and Clara had never once spoken to her like that. Never had the chance. Thanks so much, Lena replied with syrupy sweetness. Your approval means everything to me. Interesting how your old friends show up to mock you as if you weren't their friend at all. Interesting how obsessed you are with my social life. Clara's eyes narrowed. Just try not to cry next time. It's unprofessional. And she tries to say, I didn't, but it doesn't even matter. Sesame's trying to bite me now. Sesame, stop. Why are you crazy? He went for a walk today. He got played with today. He's just being crazy to be crazy. Don't get puppies, and then there's suddenly 2. And they're still annoying. I love you, though. It's gonna be Aaliyah's birthday when this goes up on Saturday. I'm making her a pumpkin spice cake because all she wants to do is steal pumpkin spice bread. And you hear him going at me. But all she wants to do is steal pumpkin spice bread, so I bought her like a dog-specific pumpkin spice cake, and I'm gonna make it. I'm excited. I think she's gonna love it. Unfortunately, her siblings can't have it because of their dietary restrictions, so it's gonna be a for Aaliyah only, probably for like an entire week cake. And I get a lot of joy out of feeding my dogs, so for her 10th birthday, I saw somebody on TikTok do hot pot for their dog. I think I'm gonna do that for her 10th birthday. She's gonna be 8 this year, so she's got 2 more years to go. Sure, you're ruining my audio quality. He just wants to wrestle. But Lena thinks to herself, I hate you, I hate this job, I hate my life. But she keeps smiling because she needs this job for now, unfortunately. Chapter 6, Clara. Clara is there in the morning to do inventory. It was supposed to be just her, but Lena is there. Also, this is his big elephant. It's way bigger than him, as you can see. He wants this desperately now. It was in Aaliyah's crate, but now it's his, I guess. This freaking stupid elephant. And Clara says, you're early. She's like, the break room is locked. And Lena is like, Jordan gave me the key. I'm just gonna sit there until my shift starts. And thinks yes, you couldn't possibly start working early, could you? A lot of jobs don't allow you to do that. There are rules about how early you're allowed to clock in and clock out. So for my current job, it's like a 7-minute window. But when I worked at the grocery store, you weren't allowed to be even like 1 minute early. We all had to line up, stare at the punch clock, punch in exactly at the time, and then it was pretty much the same for leaving. You had to punch out at the same time. I can count one time where they let me work later because they don't want to pay their minimum wage people even the minimum wage that they give them. So it's so stupid that she's like, you can't even clock in early. Hello? Like, but she's trying to take inventory, but she hears this phone call between Lena and her dad, and she doesn't really hear much except Lena asking about an account and how there has to be something left, and the job only pays $9 an hour, and after taxes that's barely enough for like anything. But she's like, no, I understand, I just thought that maybe. And then there's a long silence, and she's like, right, okay, I love you. And when Lena finally comes out, she's like, hey, your section of the prep list is on the counter, try to get it done before we open this time. And Lena's like, whatever you say, boss. And they work in silence for 20 minutes. We're low on espresso beans, Clara said, mostly to break the weird tension in the air. Need to order more, Lena snapped. Yes, I'm not completely stupid. Could have fooled me. The words came automatically, their usual script, but they felt wrong somehow, like scoring points in a game where the other player had already forfeited. See, I don't like how we're kind of talking about their banter, if you can call it that, after years and years and years of bullying, as like a game to Clara, the person who was literally being bullied by the other person. I don't like it. I think it's dumb. But don't worry, she corrects herself and she's like, hey, this is still Lena James. Like, she treats this job like it's a personal insult. Like, it doesn't matter if she's upset. There's more stupid banter. I don't care about it. And Lena is on register duty again. And Claire's like, Maya's coming in at 9. You can switch over to dishes then if you want. But she knows that Lena hates dishes more than the register, so. And then they're just doing the morning rush, basic rhythm. But then there's this lady kind of being a dick at the counter. counter ordering, being like, what do you mean you don't have sugar-free caramel? And Lena's like, I'm sorry, we ran out, but we have sugar-free vanilla. And she's like, the other place has sugar-free caramel. I get it there all the time. She's like, I know, and we usually do, but she's like, this is ridiculous. Let me speak to your manager. And I do take some kind of sick pleasure in Lena being talked to like this because she needs a reality check for real. And Clara says, hey, he's not in yet. What seems to be the problem? And she's like, the problem is that she's refusing to make my drink correctly. It's obviously not true. And Claire's like, we have run out of sugar-free caramel. We expect another delivery tomorrow. It's like, well, you should make sure you don't run out. The woman said, I'm trying to watch my blood sugar and this is discrimination, which not how that works, but okay. And there is a line starting to grow also. And Lena's like, unfortunately, we just don't have it. Like, I've offered alternatives. She's like, I want to speak to someone else, someone who knows what they're doing. And then Clara tries to be like, ma'am, but Lena is like, you know what? You're right. I don't know what I'm doing. I mean, how could I? I'm just the help. I couldn't possibly understand the profound importance of sugar-free caramel syrup. It's not like I used to be the kind of person who would throw a fit in a coffee shop over something so monumentally stupid, which thank God she gets it a little bit. But Claire's like, okay, ma'am, let me handle your order personally. Lena, go check the stockroom. Lena's like, but, and she's like, now. Go. And so Lena goes and she's like, hey, I'm gonna have her written up, don't worry. She's like, now, can I interest you in our sugar-free vanilla? 10 minutes later, after the woman left with her sugar-free vanilla latte and a gift card, the lines finally died down. And Claire's like, that was actually impressive. She's like, you almost kept her cool. She's like, I mean, almost, but still. She's like, I didn't need your help. And she's like, obviously not. You had it completely under control with the whole I'm just the help routine. She's like, shut up. But there was no real heat in it. For a moment, they just looked at each other, something almost like understanding passing between them. There was still a flush to Lena's cheeks, the anger and embarrassment remaining, and it made her even more beautiful than usual. Stop thinking of her as beautiful, even if she is. Yeah, it's weird that you're so caught up on her looks. This is starting to make me think if maybe I'm on the asexual spectrum, but I really don't think so because I see so many butches on TikTok and they're hot. They're so incredibly hot. And I'm like, but I'm not like, okay, if a super fine, my type of butch. So I'm not gonna go into all that, but if they were my bully for 4 years in high school and then suddenly started working with me and hadn't really even improved their attitude all that much, I don't think I'd be like, stop thinking of her as beautiful even if she is. Like, I would not be thinking that because I think personality is more important. I do. I think personality is more important in who you date, who you marry, who you do whatever with than what people look like. That's what I think. But you know, And Claire's like, Jordan's gonna ask what happened, and she's like, well, are you going to tell him? And Clara says, I'll tell him that you handled a difficult customer with admirable restraint. Just try not to call anyone monumentally stupid in front of witnesses next time. And she thinks to herself, though it was sort of funny, who knew Lena James could be funny when her vitriol isn't directed at you? Yes, mean lesbians unite. Lena's not a lesbian, but still. Ugh. Which I'm actually glad about, by the way. We'll get to that when we get to that. And then Claire's like, okay, break's over, back to work. And she's like, you know you're not really my boss, right? And Claire's like, thank God for that. And Lena's like, I'll be out in a minute. And she says at the end of the chapter that even when Jordan comes later to check the daily reports and she tells him about the incident, she tells him that despite everything, Lena is working out okay. And she's like, not that I'd ever admit that to her. Some things were better left unsaid. Okay, if you say so. Then we get another in the DMs, and it's Clara texting Lena saying, hey, Maya called in sick tomorrow. Can you cover the morning shift? And Lena's like, yeah, what time? And it's 7:12. And she's like, okay. And she's like, thanks. And she's like, whatever. It's not like I have a thriving social life anymore. And she's like, hey, I'll make it up to you. I can cover one of your shifts next week if you need it. She's like, are you feeling okay? It almost sounded like consideration. She's like, professional courtesy, don't read into it. Anyway, and she's also brings up the sugar-free caramel lady again and is like, she was out of line. And she's like, did you report me to Jordan? She's like, no. And she's like, why? And she's like, because I did it. It's like, wow, there's the Clara Brown who's such an artist with words. And she's like, what? And she's like, that was what Miss Wheeler called you once. She's like, you remember what a teacher said about me? And she's like, see you tomorrow. And she's like, okay. I don't know. This isn't the worst book I've read in a hot minute, because if you've seen my page bound or even just my channel lately, like, it's been really bad. But oh my god, like, it still wasn't hitting. Like, I had a commenter on my page bound who was actually worried about me. It was like, I really need you to have a 5-star book soon. And I'm like, here's hoping, man. Like, chapter 7, Lena, her dad is calling her, and Clara's kind of up her ass about making the drinks correctly. She's like, hey, maybe you could pay attention instead of being on your phone. And Lena's like, maybe you could mind your own business. And her dad dad texts her and says, hey, we need to talk, like it's important. And Claire's like, that's the 4th drink you've messed up today. Like, if you can't handle the bar, go back to the register. And Lena's like, I can handle it, because she made like the perfect drink to prove to Clara the other day that she could do it. And she's like, but today everything felt wrong, like her hands belonged to someone else. Like the universe was conspiring to remind her that this wasn't her world. I mean, it's not, but whatever. And Lena says she has it, and she starts pumps into a cup, and she's up to 3, and Claire's like, that one gets 4. And I'm like, okay, well, she was up to 3, so like maybe she wasn't done, whatever. And Lena's like, do you want to make it? And she's like, actually yes, before you waste more product that I have to account for. I'm like, but she didn't even pass the number that you just said, so I don't understand. Whatever. The way Clara said it, like Lena was some kind of charity case they had to budget for, it made her want to scream. I mean, whatever. A few weeks ago, she could have bought this entire coffee shop without blinking. Now she was getting lectured about wasting syrup that cost less than her old daily lattes. Yeah, but still, like, also you are a charity case. Your dad called in a favor. You're not here from your own merits, girl. And she's trying to tell herself, like, don't think about back then, don't think about your old life. And she gets a text from her mom being like, please call your father, the bank is being difficult. Like, how would she be able to do anything about that? She's presumably 18, 19 max. Doesn't make any sense. And Lena says, I really need to take this call, cover for me or don't. I don't care. She goes, and it's about her tuition deposit for college. And she's like, hey, what about it, Dad? You said. He's like, I know what I said, but the accounts are frozen, all of them. The lawyers are working on it, but until then. And she's like, so what am I supposed to do? Defer for a year? Work here making coffee for people that I used to go to school with? And she's feeling like anger and kind of grief about this. And he says it's only temporary, which is something he's continued to say. And we just need to figure it out. The back door opened. Clara stood there looking annoyed. Of course she did. Clara didn't have to worry about tuition deposit. Even Lena had heard that Clara got a full scholarship, the perfect end to her perfect straight A student journey. We need you to work, Clara said. In case you forgot, this is a job, not a social club. Lena held up one finger in Clara's direction, turning away. Dad, I have to go. My keeper is getting antsy. You know, because I have a job now. So I think it's odd that she frames the not having to worry about tuition being some kind of luxury just because Clara worked super hard and was able to get one. I worked all throughout high school. I was in the top 10 of my class. I'm not trying to brag. I'm just trying to give some perspective, okay? I still got only like a 2/3 ride at one of my lowest picked schools, which is the one I ended up going to, which was a colossal mistake. I know that now. You get tricked when you're 18 and you're the first one in your family to go to college for real. You know what is the actual privilege? It is being a Nepo baby whose parents just sign the money. Just sign the money. You don't have to pay any interest. You don't have to pay anything absurd. That's what real privilege looks like. I don't want to hear it from Lena. My dad was going to pay for it with my trust fund until like a couple weeks ago. I don't want to hear it. And she just hangs up on the phone and she's not doing well. If you can't handle a full shift, Clara started, her voice dripping with condescension. Maybe you should shut up about things you don't understand. Lena cut her off, shoving past her into the shop. Not all of us dreamed of spending our lives making minimum wage. Hello? Like, she has no perspective. I can't root for her. I know that she like changes, allegedly. It does nothing for me. And she knows that it's bitchy, but she doesn't care. It was bitchy, but she didn't care, not right now. Taking the words back would mean having to admit things, like the fact that she was terrified, that everything was falling apart, that she had no idea who she was supposed to be anymore. Which is scary, but like, again, why am I expected to care more about this rich girl's feelings than literally other things? I don't care. I literally don't care. Bella, Madison, and Ashley, aka the Mean Girl Preservation Society, which she was part of or whatever, show up. They all look gorgeous. And Bella, once again, is like, oh my god, you're still doing this. I thought for sure you'd have quit by now. But obviously she doesn't have any money. So she just starts trying to get them to order. And Bella's like, we're not here to order. We're here to rescue you. Daddy got us a table at the Reserve for brunch. We can wait while you change. And Lena says, I'm working. My shift doesn't end until 4. And she's like, I'm in jail, but you can't save me. And being indebted to you, ... No, never. Like, I don't understand people who do all these fake relationships, but pop off, I guess. And Bella's like, working, right, like playing at being one of the peasants.
I got a little secret for you. Come here. No, closer. I don't make deals with peasants!
peasants. Like, this is the modern day, but okay, whatever. And she's gesturing at Clara and she's like, God, remember how she used to follow the teachers around like a lost puppy, and now she's what? Your boss? And Lena doesn't really know what to say to this. And Bella stage whispered, still so proud of her little coffee shop job. Like, congratulations, you can operate a glorified water heater. She smirked. Remember when she tried to give that presentation in AP Lit looking like she'd gotten dressed at Goodwill? At least now she has a uniform to hide behind. And Lena laughs about it, which is like fucked up. And Lena's like, yeah, she thinks it's the most important thing ever. And Bella's like, and yet you're not leaving with us. You're staying here with her. It's like, you think this is important. Such a sad sight. You and little Miss Goodwill. And Lena's like, I'm nothing like her. Bella's like, well, don't let us keep you from your important career and this ... blooming friendship. Come on, girls, let's go somewhere with better service. And Madison tries to say, but the coffee here, but she gets cut off. And Bella's like, let's go. Because again, I don't think most rich people have taste. I think they have money. And those are different. And Lena turns to look at Clara and she's gonna say something to her, but Clara just holds up her hand and she's like, don't, just don't. She's like, what? It's not like I thought you were anything else than this, Clara said. I don't know why I'm surprised. I don't either, Lena turned back to the bar. I don't belong here. You don't belong anywhere these days, do you? I'm like, ooh, ooh, ooh. And her phone is buzzing, but she doesn't want to deal with it now at this point. And she also thinks that her words cut through Lena like stepping on broken glass barefoot. Girl, you started it. You continue to bully her. See, it's not even like the bullying is in the past. It continues to happen a little bit. So I'm not for this. Chapter 8, Clara. She's telling Lena what drink she needs, and she's trying to keep it professional. Don't let her see that she got to you again. Fair enough. And they've been working together for 2 days with no banter, no commentary. I mean, I don't know if you could argue that what was happening before is banter, but I mean, I guess to each their own. I can't force you to believe what you should. Like, Lena is trying to be neutral, but she's also been trying to be apologetic a little bit, but she's settled on matching Clara's tone. Why we're getting all this when it's a Clara chapter, I don't know. The morning rush kept them busy enough that Clara could almost forget about the twinge of ... something in her chest. I thought she was different now. What a joke. Lena had once again proven to be exactly who Clara had always known her to be. Yeah, she hadn't done anything, in my opinion, thus far to prove to you that she was any different, so I don't understand what this contrived BS is. Her BFF Naomi comes in with her art portfolio, blah, 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 and Clara's like, hey, I'm kind of busy, but she's excited to see her. She's like, I know, but I'm on the way to submit my portfolio, and I just needed to see you quick. And she looks at Lena and she's like, oh, she's still here. And Clara's like, unfortunately. And she's like, well, I thought after what happened. And Clara's like, the usual? And she thinks to herself, unfortunately, we can't fire her for laughing with her friends, even if I was the butt of their joke. I mean, I feel like that could kind of go with workplace harassment, but this book doesn't care about accuracy. It just cares about, I don't know, bully romance, I guess. And Naomi says, please, but with an extra shot. Like, I need all the courage I can get today. See, that would just make me anxious and I wouldn't be able to keep going, but okay. And Naomi's like, okay, so how are you handling everything? She's like, it's fine, it's just work. She's like, right, because you always look this tense at work. She's like, it's fine, it's not like we were friends. Well, no, I mean, we're only 25% through this book, so okay. I'm angrier with myself than with her. She's just ... herself, the bitch she's always been, is something she thinks to herself. And Naomi's like, well, I thought you guys were starting to kind of, no, they weren't. Where? Bitch, where? She's like, here's your drink, it's ready, like, good luck with your portfolio. And Naomi's like, hey, you know you're allowed to be upset, right? And Clara's like, I'm not upset, I'm just not pretending anymore. She's like, pretending what? And she's like, that people can change, or that any of this matters. She's like, Clara, and she's like, I have customers. And she's like, I'm coming over tonight and we're talking about this. And Clara's like, there's nothing to talk about, but sure, come over. Tell me about the internship instead. So we're also going to get into how I don't understand the timeline of events because school hasn't started yet, so it's very confusing, but we'll get there. But Clara thinks to herself that this is easier with them just not interacting the same way anymore. But then they run into a problem because the mobile orders are all wrong. Like the app crashed or something's wrong and now they're showing up out of sequence. And she thinks that Lena looks genuinely distressed as if she cared, and Clara thinks to herself, she doesn't, don't fool yourself. Like, I don't understand why you care so much that she cares about this job. And we're gonna have to get to that too because, oh my god. But Clara's like, okay, just call out the orders as they come in. I'll sequence them, we'll figure it out. And so they're working in sync, but they're not chit-chatty or anything. The espresso machine's steam wand screeched and they both reached to adjust it at the same time. Clara's hand landed on top of Lena's, warm and steady. For a a split second, neither moved. I've got it, Clara said, her voice strangely soft. Lena nodded, pulling her hand away slowly. The customer at the register was saying something, but Lena couldn't process the words. All she could focus on was the lingering sensation of Clara's fingers on hers and the inexplicable quickening of her pulse. And I wrote in my notes, we forgot whose chapter this was, LMAO, because this is a Clara chapter. Why am I getting Lena's thoughts? I don't know. It is in third person, but like, what? Anyway, the rush finally dies down, and Clara can feel Lena hovering, probably trying to decide if it was time to attempt another apology. But Lena just says, I'll restock the cups. Clara nodded, not trusting herself to speak, because the thing was, she didn't want Lena's apology. Didn't want to hear how she didn't mean it, how she was just falling back into old patterns, how she was trying to be better. Clara had heard it all before back in high school when teachers forced Lena to apologize for some particularly mean comment. And then she thinks about something that Lena has said, which was, I apologize if you misunderstood my joke. I thought we were all having fun. Yeah, that just also proves to me that Lena has known exactly what she's doing the entire time. So I don't feel anything for her. I don't like her as a person. Like, she knew what she was doing the entire time. You cannot tell me she didn't. So I can't get behind her. I can't. And Jordan asks if Clara's fine, and she's like, yeah, I'm fine. And he's like, okay, whatever is going on between you two. And she's like, there's nothing going on. We're working. Everything's fine. And he's like, okay, but you don't have to be fine all the time, Clara. But she did, because the alternative was admitting that for a minute there, she started to think that maybe Lena James wasn't the same girl who'd made her high school years hell. That maybe something had changed when Lena's parents' finances went to hell. See, I just feel like most of this story is Clara deluding herself. That's my opinion. But Naomi texts her and is like, hey, submitted my portfolio, yay. We're gonna talk about this later whether you want to or not. And Clara puts her phone away and she thinks to herself, she'd just forgotten for a moment who Lena James really was. It wouldn't happen again. See, I don't understand why you forgot, because it's only been a couple weeks since she was actively tormenting you every single day. It's not like it's been years. So I really don't understand this crud. There's another DM thing, and Naomi can't actually make out to talk to her because her car broke down. Now she's getting a tow truck, and she's like, but don't think this gets you out of talking about Lena. And she's like, there's nothing to talk about. We're just coworkers who don't like each other. And she's like, right, that's why you've mentioned her in every conversation for 2 weeks. And she's like, I have not. And Naomi's like, Lena messed up another order today. You won't believe what Lena said. Lena actually made a perfect cappuccino and I almost died. She's like, I don't sound like that. You totally do. It's like high school, except now you're the one obsessed with her. She's like, I am not obsessed. She's like, the lady doth protest too much. She's like, I don't want to talk about her. And she's like, that's okay. Your constant denial tells me everything I need to know. And I'm like, I just don't agree. I just don't agree with any of this, but okay. Chapter 9, Lena. We find out now that Lena's parents are selling the house, which is the house that Lena grew up in her entire life. She finally apparently called her dad back after she's been kind of just ignoring him for days. And she still lives with them, but because of how much she's working, she's really not seeing them. And he says once again that it's only temporary, just until we sort out these legal issues, like maybe 6 months to a year at most. And she's like, a year? Where are we supposed to live for a year? And her aunt apparently has a condo that she's going to rent to them at a reasonable price. And she's like, Auntie Marie in the suburbs. Lena pressed her forehead against the cool metal of her locker. Dad, that's like an hour from here. How am I supposed to get to work? Which is a great point. And he's like, well, there are buses that go to and from there too. And he says, maybe you could. And she's like, you know what? No, my shift is starting. Bye. And she hangs up on him. And she gets there and Clara immediately is like, you're late. It's like, damn it. Do I have a bell around my neck, or did she implant a chip to keep track of me all the time? And she's like, I was making a phone call. And she's like, yeah, personal calls need to be done on personal time. I don't really get why you care this much. And I mean, I guess it's because she doesn't want to have to do all the labor or whatever at her allegedly minimum wage job. Fine. Okay. However, I still think you're going to bat for a small business that really doesn't give a rat's ass about you. And I don't understand that. I truly don't. And Lena just says, I haven't started work yet, so don't worry, I'm not getting paid for personal calls. But Clara just like turns around, goes to the front, and Lena's a little upset that there's no sass anymore. Why do you even care? Lena asked herself as she tied her apron. So what if Clara Brown isn't talking to you? She's a nerd and you've never wanted her attention before. Or had she? Lena had spent quite a bit of time on coming up with funny one-liners about Clara, always waiting for the right moment to drop them. No offense, but I'm really impressed by your confidence. I'd never leave the house dressed like that. God, she'd been so mean. And yet now she couldn't stop thinking about her. Why was Clara so stupidly, irritatingly, interesting? What is wrong with me? Unfortunately, you're just gay, but you're also a terrible person. So, and she's watching Clara do stuff, and she tells herself, I'm just observant, that's all. But Tyler Hemsworth from the football team had never made her stomach flutter like this, even when they dated for 6 months. And she starts to freak out a little bit internally. And I'm like, okay, girl, I want to like the former mean girl is now queer thing, but it's just so infuriating that I can't get behind it. I just can't. I feel like, again, bullying and being enemies with someone are two distinctly different things. I said what I said. But she goes to the break room for a second, and then Claire's like, Jordan wants to see you in the office. And he's like, shut the door. We need to talk about what's going on. And she's like, I can explain. And he's like, Clara didn't say anything if that's what you're worried about, but I'm not blind. Something happened between you two, and the tension is affecting the whole shop. And she's like, are you firing me? And she's thinking, why is my heart pounding? I don't want this stupid job. And he's like, what? No, like, I'm giving you some more responsibility. And she's like, I'm sorry, what? And he's like, we have a new hire starting tomorrow. I need you to help train them. Like, you want me to train someone? I've only just learned this job myself. Yeah, that's better than my current job where I was supposed to be trained for multiple weeks. I had the overnight partner for 1 week who then moved to the day shift, and then they were like, well, good luck, have fun. It was a nightmare. And he's like, you're doing fine when you're not being distracted about what's going on with you and Clara. And she's like, nothing's going on with me and Clara. And she thinks that's actually true because she's pretty much not speaking to me at all. And he's like, right, just like there was nothing going on when your friends came in last week. She's like, you heard about that? And he's like, yeah, it's a small shop, word gets around. It's like, look, I don't need to know the details, but I need to know if you can handle this, because training someone is about more than just teaching them how to make fucking coffee. And she thinks to herself, no, I can't handle this. I can't handle anything right now. But she says, I can do it, because what choice does she have? She literally thinks that. She's like, she needed this job, and she needed it more than ever now that they were losing their house. I mean, if you're selling it, you're not really losing it, are you? But whatever. Some guy named Alex, he's in high school, and he's like, think you can handle that without ... you know, without being myself, Lena thought, without being the kind of person who made high school hell for people like Clara. See, she's completely aware. She's completely aware. Like, I feel nothing for her. Like, I just want her to go away. And he's like, please also try to fix whatever's going on with you and Clara. She thinks to herself, she'd been trying to fix it. She'd attempted 3 different apologies, each one shut down before she could finish. Not that she even knew what she wanted to say. Sorry for laughing. Sorry for being exactly who you always thought I was. Like, so when she gets out there, Clara's kind of a dick immediately, but honestly, I think if anyone in this story deserves to be a dick repeatedly, it's Clara. So she's like, orders are backing up. Do you think you can help, or do you need another personal moment? Like, and then I feel like they're about to have a moment, but Bella comes in and is like, oh my god, thank god you're here. Like, I need your help planning the end of summer party. Daddy's letting us use the lake house. She's like, what can I get started for you? Because she's done with this. And Bella's like, what? And she's like, your drink order. This is a coffee shop. You order drinks here. She's like, oh my god, are you still doing this? I'm like, can't the author think of something else to have Bella say? Anything at all? No. Bella feels repeated and ridiculous, and also an attempt to make the reader think that, hey, maybe Lena's not as bad, but she is. She is just as bad. So I really don't want to hear it. She might even actually be more bad because she's self-aware. She's actually self-aware what she's doing, of the harm she has caused people. And she's what? I'm just supposed to believe in this book she changes over a very short period of time? I don't think so. Also, like, where did we get this idea that poverty causes character growth? It doesn't. I don't know what to tell you. The amount of terrible people I know who are poor is a very long list. Like, it doesn't cause character development. Hello? She's like, this has gone on long enough. It's getting sad. And Lena is like, okay, well, you need to order because I have customers, like actual customers. And she's like, wow, you're really getting native. Are you going to start hanging out with? And she's like, the line is getting long. Order or leave. And Bella is like, okay, I'll order a skinny vanilla latte since you're so committed to playing barista. And she's like, what's the name for the order? And Bella's like, what? And she's like, your name for the cup, since you're so committed to playing the customer. And I'm like, do we really have time for this? And Bella just stares at her, and then she just walks out. And Lena thinks, thank God. She's starting to make drinks again, but she's also kind of side watching Clara watching her. And Clara says, the new guy you're training, don't teach them your milk steaming technique. One person burning drinks is enough. And she thinks it wasn't forgiveness, it wasn't even friendliness, but it was the first almost bantering thing Clara had said to her in days. Lena says, I make one mistake, and she's like, 7 mistakes today. She's like, it's been a rough morning. And she's like, it's barely 11. And then Lena tries to apologize, and Clara says, just don't mess up training the new kid. And Lena thinks, okay, maybe words aren't what matter here. And I'm kind of like, yeah, maybe not. I don't know. I mean, I also think though that if you spend your entire 4 years of high school using words to damage people, that maybe, just perhaps maybe, you could use words to say something meaningful about how it was wrong of you to do all of that and you shouldn't have done any of it, but whatever. What do I know? We're just supposed to enjoy this bully romance that is mismarketed as enemies to lovers. Her phone buzzes in her pocket, but she ignores it, and she thinks about how right now she has a job to do, even if she couldn't explain why Clara's opinion of her mattered so much. Then again, there wasn't much she did understand these days. Whatever you say, honey. Chapter 10, Clara. She's closing with Lena tonight because Jordan called out sick and the new kid had a family emergency because the universe clearly hasn't tested Clara's patience enough lately. Fair. And it's raining pretty bad. And she's telling Lena what to do, and Lena is like, I know how to do closing tasks. And Clara thinks she'd been different since shutting down Bella yesterday, less Lena-ish. It was annoying, if you say so. And then the thunder's rolling outside.
And the thunder rolls.
And then all the lights go off and Lena and Clara bump into each other because they accidentally, are moving around in the dark, and Clara says sorry and Lena says it's fine. But she seems pretty anxious about being here in the dark. And Lena's like, please tell me you know where the flashlights are. And Clara says they're under the counter by the register, like don't touch anything until. And then there's a crash followed by Lena swearing, and she's like, I get the lights, what did you break? And she's like, nothing, I just knocked over the cleaning spray, I can't see anything. And Clara gets to the emergency supplies and gets the flashlights, and she's like, the power's out in the whole block, we need to secure everything before the cold storage starts to warm up. And she's like, what about the register? And she's like, it'll save the transactions automatically anyway. So they need to get everything from the display to the walk-in because the walk-in holds the temperature longer. And she's like, we need to not open the door more than necessary to. And so they do all that, and then they stumble into each other, sending them both against the counter. For a moment, they were too close, Lena's hand gripping Clara's arm to steady herself. And Lena's like, sorry, I'm not used to doing this in the dark. And Clara's like, you're not used to doing this at all. And then...
And the lightning strikes.
And Clara's like, are you not a big fan of storms? Because Lena looks afraid, and she's like, it's fine, let's just get this done so we can leave. And then when they're done, they find out that the bus isn't running because there's floods on one of the streets. And Clara checks her phone, and it's her bestie Naomi checking to see if she's still at work and like, be careful, the storm's bad. Do I know where they live? No. So I can't imagine what kind of storm this is, but it's fine. And then
The thunder rolls and the lightning strikes.
and Lena jumps, and she's trying to pretend that it doesn't bother her, but Clara noticed, and she's like, we need to finish closing before it gets worse. And Lena's like, right, what still needs to be done? And they're going through the closing checklist, and Clara is hyper aware of Lena's presence in the darkness, the sound of her breathing, the slight scrape of her shoes on the floor, the way she kept inching closer to Clara whenever thunder rolled overhead.
And the thunder rolls.
The thunder rolled. And Clara's like, stop hovering, I can't count receipts if you're breathing down my neck. And she's like, I'm not hovering, I'm just making sure I don't bump into anything else. And Clara's like, well, it's not my fault she's afraid of storms. Yeah, no shit, Sherlock. And they're just trying to get this shit done. And Clara remembers when they were juniors and they had been paired for a project. There had been a storm, and Lena had been really unusually quiet and jumping at every thunder crack. Clara thought she was being dramatic, being attention seeking like always, but she's like, okay. The count can wait, Clara heard herself say. We should call for rides before the storm gets worse. Lena was already on her phone, but she kept shaking her head. No signal. The tower must be down. Clara checked her own phone. No bars. Fantastic. Yeah, so they're stuck here. Hooray, forced proximity. Which is usually a favorite trope of mine, but in this case, no thank you. Being trapped with any of my bullies would make me have an aneurysm. But of course, I also wasn't bullied by any butches, so maybe I just don't know what I'm talking about. Maybe I don't know what I'm looking for. But don't worry, she's telling herself in her head that people don't change. Thank you, Clara, we know. You really believe that now, and that's fine. Whatever. And Clara says we could wait it out. The power usually comes back on pretty quick in this area. And Lena's like, I'm not scared. And she's like, I didn't say you were. And she's like, good, because I'm not. And Clara's like, I used to hate storms too when I was little. She's like, I don't. And then the lightning strikes again. And she's like, okay, I hate it. All right? Like, go ahead and make fun of me. She's like, contrary to what you might think, I don't actually enjoy kicking people when they're down. And Lena flinches a little. And she's like, I know. I mean, I'm starting to know that. And I'm sorry about don't. Clara cut her off. We're not doing this now. When when are we doing it? You won't let me apologize at work. You won't look at me during shifts. You barely, because I don't want your apology, the words echoed in the dark shop. I don't want you to feel bad or try to make things right or whatever this is, because 4 years isn't going to go away just because you've suddenly run out of money. I just want to do my job without having to think about high school or being the goodwill girl or any of it, which is fair, except she doesn't stick to this, so I can't even respect her. Lena's like, okay, no apology, but can we, I don't know, start over? Start over? Clara's laugh held no humor. Like, none of it happened? Like, you didn't spend 4 years making sure I knew exactly what a nerd I was? Clara, you could totally be in a rom-com, you know, as the before girl in the makeover montage. All right, I won't say I'm sorry, Lena said, but since we're going to keep working together, maybe we could look at it like she seemed to be choosing her words carefully. Like, maybe that was then and now is now, because things are different now. Are they? Are they? Except the only thing that's different in my opinion is you don't have money. Eventually, the rain is letting up and they can probably make it to the bus stop now. Like, even if the 4th Street line is down, there might be other ones running. And Lena's like, right, good idea. And Lena's like, you don't have to walk with me. You can go your own way. Clara should say yes. Protect herself by maintaining the boundary between them. The look on Lena's face when she'd laughed at Bella's cruel comments flashed before her, but instead she said, no, I'll probably end up taking the same bus anyway. It wasn't forgiveness. It wasn't even friendliness, but it was ... something. Thanks, Lena says softly. I could not be me, girl. I'd be leaving her in the storm, but I'm built different. They walked in silence, keeping careful distance between them. Clara told herself she was just being practical and making sure her scared of thunder coworker got home safely. It was just doing what anyone would do. She almost believed it. Sure, if you say so. Then there's a in the DMs. Lena is like, Jordan says Alex can't make his shift. Should I cover it? And Claire's like, Maya's already covering and your training with him is going to be pushed to Thursday. You do your planned shift. And she's like, okay. And then they talk a little bit about the storm, but I don't know why it matters. Chapter 11, Lena. She got the email from her university but she hasn't opened it because she can't take it right now. The deadline for the tuition deposit was 3 days ago, and her dad promised he'd figure something out, but it turned out to be empty promises, just like she feared. And Clara is now criticizing how she grinds coffee beans. Okay. And Lena just adjusts the setting on the grinder. She doesn't want to argue. Lately, she'd noticed that Clara was usually right about these things. She had a way of knowing exactly how each variable would affect the final drink. Not that Lena was paying attention to how Clara worked. She just ... noticed things sometimes. And she shows her the beans and she's like, is this fine? She's like, it'll do. And Lena's phone is buzzing in her pocket and it's probably her mom wanting to know if she checked her email, or her dad with more empty reassurances. You know, I kind of do love seeing rich people get their comeuppance though. There's something about it. But don't worry, she starts watching Clara's hands. She had nice hands, strong but graceful, always sure of their purpose. Not that Lena was looking at Clara's hands, she just happened to notice. I felt safe with her during the storm. No, you didn't. She's not safe. She's just Clara. Okay, whoever you need to talk to. And Clara's like, hey, go take a break before you need to fix another fucking drink. Like, I haven't messed up any drinks today. She's like, okay, but you've been staring at the grinder for 3 minutes. Something's obviously wrong. She's like, fine, I'll take my break. She goes to the break room. She opens the email. It tells her, you know, that there was no tuition deposit. So her fall semester of UCLA is being deferred. And she starts getting really cryy about it, which is fair. And Clara's like, hey, Jordan needs the inventory sheets from yesterday. And she's like, great, I really need Clara to be witnessing even more of my life falling apart. I'm like, well, it couldn't hurt, could it? And she's like, the sheets are in my locker, I'll get them. And then Clara's like, are you? Because she's clearly crying. And she's like, never mind, just bring them out when you can. Lena watched her leave, noticed the way she moved with such certainty, like she never questioned her place in the world. Did she ever stay up late at night wondering who she was? Probably not. Clara Brown knew who she was. She had never needed designer clothes or daddy's money or carefully cultivated friend groups to feel secure. I think that maybe she hasn't spent time thinking about that because poor people don't have time for that. Do you know what I was doing in school between clubs and my advanced classwork and all that shit? I was going to work. And when I wasn't at work, I did my homework and then I'd fall asleep on the couch at like 4 in the afternoon. Poor people do not have time for your stupid self-reflection shit. Yeah, obviously we still do some self-reflection, but it's definitely not the same because money can't buy happiness, but it sure as fuck does buy time, doesn't it? But her dad is like, call me when you can if you saw the email, like we'll figure something out. Maybe you should talk to Bella about an internship because her dad is apparently offering one or something. And Lena just turns off her phone because she doesn't want Bella's handout. I don't get it. I don't get it because you are desperate right now. I would just take it. I think we all kind of understand that rich people are actually like American Psycho. That you're not real friends. We get it, okay? But like, if she's not your real friend, then use her for what she has for you. This is contrived and dumb. I hate this like pull yourself up by your bootstraps narrative. Like it's, sometimes you just need to take a handout. I don't know, whatever. But they have to get through the afternoon rush. Hooray. And Lena kind of tries to channel some of Clara's like friendliness. And Claire was like, you don't have to try so hard, Clara said after the rush died down. They're just people. Easy for you to say. Everyone likes you. The words slipped out before Lena could stop them. Clara raised an eyebrow. Everyone? Even I like you, even though I'm trying not to. She thinks that part anyway. And she just kind of fumbles and she's like, you're good at this, the whole people thing. And she's like, you know what I mean? And Claire's like, actually, I don't. And then Bella is back again because, oh my God. She's like, I've been trying to reach you all weekend. Daddy talked to his friend at Morgan Stanley about that internship. And Lena is like, what can I get started for you? And Bella's like, you know, honey, I'm just trying to help. It's sweet that you're trying to prove whatever point this is. But seriously, Daddy's friend is offering you a real job in finance with actual career potential. And this is something that I truly don't understand is that she's just going to stay at this dead end fucking coffee job, which we know from the synopsis is going to have financial trouble. It's stupid. It doesn't make any fucking sense. Like, you've been complaining about money this entire time, but you're still choosing to work at this job that's $9 an hour because you want to get in Clara's pants. Let's keep it 1,000. I don't understand it. I don't understand it. And maybe it's because she was rich before and she gets to make rich people delusional decisions. I can't get behind this. This is so dumb. A month ago, Lena would have jumped at this offer, would have done anything to escape making coffee and taking buses and wearing a store-issued apron. But a month ago, she hadn't known what it felt like to earn something, hadn't known the satisfaction of mastering the espresso machine, of remembering a regular's order, of having Clara say not terrible in that tone that meant she was ... impressed. I just wrote in my notes, who are you talking to right now? This is stupid and contrived. I hate the idea, like, this makes me very suspicious about the author, and I know maybe that's wrong, but there isn't something deeply satisfying about earning $9 an hour for yourself. No matter how good you get at something, no matter how much you might enjoy it to a certain extent, there is no true joy or meaning in making only $9 an hour and struggling to get by. It's contrived. It's contrived and stupid. And I know that it's because it's a romance and that's why. But romances don't all have to be contrived and stupid. And sometimes you can have a contrived and stupid plot idea, like Honey Girl by Morgan Rogers. The entire romance element of that is they met in Vegas, they got drunk, married, and then they're still into each other after that and they figure stuff out. But like, it was written well, so I loved it. This is not that. It's just infuriating. And Lena is like, I have a job. Bella is like, this isn't a job, this is punishment. For what? I don't even know, but come on, Lee, you're better than this. And I still don't understand why she's not taking the money, not taking the easier route. I don't get it. She's like, no, I'm not, but maybe I'm starting to be. Bella's like, wow, they really have brainwashed you. What's next? Are you going to start hanging out with? And she's like, okay, the line's getting long, you need to leave. And I still don't understand this. But Bella stares at her and then she just turns and leaves. And she feels like pride from working here now. And I can't relate at all. I can't relate. And it's not like some deep-seated anger about classism, although I feel I'm entitled to it at this point. I'm 32. I've never been in any higher than I would say like middle class in my entire life. However, I don't say it out of this like I'm too good for what I do or everyone is too, like, my thing is actually that I think everyone's too good to be treated in such an appalling, demeaning way and make so little money while billionaires are laughing all the way to the bank. You know what I mean? Like, there's no pride in just working in these places. And I feel like it's weird boomer propaganda. I really do, because I am not proud of what I do ever, really. I do it to make not that much money, to have a terrible sleep schedule. It's just demeaning to be hit by children and spat on by children, to worry about other bodily fluids getting on you. It's demeaning. It's demeaning to be called slurs. It's demeaning to not have a good job that not only treats you well but pays you well. It's demeaning. It's not fun. I don't understand this weird take pride in what you do bullshit. I think it's just so you can remain delusional and toxically positive so that you can keep doing what you're doing. I don't get it. I don't get it. I don't get why she didn't take the finance job. I don't get it. But Lena is going to get more milk because she doesn't want to deal with this. So she goes into the walk-in and she's like, when had impressing Clara started mattering more than impressing Bella? I don't know. I don't know. You're horned up on Maine, I guess. I don't know. And Claire's like, did you get lost in here? The milk isn't exactly hard to find. And Lena's like, coming. This was fine. This was normal. She just ... admired Clara, wanted to be more like her, wanted to be someone Clara might actually respect. Maybe even someone Clara might consider a friend. That's all it was.
Sure, Jan.
I also just want to bring up quick before we go to the next chapter, when has Clara had better choices? When has Clara been presented with the opportunity of having an accounting job that would work really well for her and that would make her a lot more money and help her pay for things while she's at college? She has never had the same opportunities. So I think it's weird to be like, I really just want to impress Clara now, but you're also making terrible life decisions for yourself to impress Clara. And these are opportunities that Clara would never have. I just think that this is ridiculous. Chapter 12, Clara. Lena is training the little boy Alex now. Clara paused in her inventory count, watching the new hire demonstrate perfect technique to Lena. 2 weeks ago, she would have bet money that Lena James couldn't train someone to make coffee if her trust fund depended on it. But here was Alex getting everything right, seeming to enjoy learning. Okie doke. Her voice was different when she trained Alex. Patient, focused, none of her usual sharp edges. Really, it wasn't just with him. Lately, Lena seemed to be trying instead of just going through the motions. Even queen bees can do the work sometimes, apparently. I don't understand why. So I have another argument about this book. She wants to be someone Clara respects, maybe. She cares about that suddenly, which is a little bit mental to me. The math is not working out to me. However, aren't you just lying then about who you are and what you want just to get Clara to like you? Isn't that just a different form of lying? I feel like these types of people are kind of like weird social chameleons who just try to make everyone like them. And so I don't really buy this whole thing, and I feel like the fact that they're gonna end up together is ridiculous. But she keeps looking over at Lena because she has a problem. A laugh from the bar made her look up again. Alex had apparently said something funny because Lena was chuckling, not her old social queen smile, but something more real. Something fluttered in Clara's stomach. Yeah, well, you might just want to go to the gastroenterologist because I think it's a stomach upset. I don't think it's Lena, but okay. But she's trying to do inventory. She's not doing great, and Jordan is like, hey, you're staring at her again. And she's like, I'm supervising and making sure he's being trained properly. He's like, right, because that requires watching her make drinks. I wasn't, Clara started, but a telling blush rose on her cheeks. She quickly looked away. I'm not interested in Lena James. Jordan said, sure. Shut up. You are interested, and it's frustrating. Frustrating. So we now have an interruption after the morning rush with someone named Eve Sinclair, who's an actress. Is very famous at the moment. She's been all over everything for the past 5 years, apparently. And Lena goes over to her, is like, isn't that? And Claire's like, yes, act normal. And she's like, you're the one whose hands are shaking. I think if anyone's going to act normal, it's probably going to be Lena, because she was probably at parties with people similar to this. And Claire's like, I'm going to make this one. And Lena's like, be cool. And then she gives it to her, and she's like, I really admired your work on The Last Echo. And Eve's like, thank you, that one was so special to me. And Lena says to Clara after she's gone, she's like, you're all human, reacting to celebrities just like the rest of us. She's like, I just respect her as an actress. Like, if that's the case, I'm telling all of our regulars that you don't respect them because you don't get all red and flustered when they're around. And Clara's like, she's just beautiful, okay? She's like, oh my god, you have a little crush on Eve Sinclair. And Clara is like, stop that. And she's like, no, you should like see your face. She's like, at least own it. Eve Sinclair is gorgeous. Anyone with eyes can see that. And Clara's like, we should get back to work before Jordan notices that we're gossiping gossiping. Why? Gossip is amazing. Jordan's like, too late. He's like, but I'll allow it because it's Eve Sinclair. I'm like, okay. And Lena's like, next time she comes in, you're letting me do her drink. And Claire's like, if you can do it without asking for a selfie, sure. And she's like, no promises. Okay. I think it's pretty normal, pretty standard to ask celebrities for selfies, but okay. Also, it's not a selfie if it's with somebody. It's a picture with them. A selfie is by yourself. Okay. And throughout the day, Clara then starts to think of this. When had Lena started caring about drink quality? When had she stopped complaining about every little task? When had she started moving like she belonged here? Like this wasn't just some temporary punishment. Order for Sarah, Lena called out, and Clara noticed she'd remembered to add the extra shot without being reminded. She'd noticed a lot of things about Lena lately, actually. Too many things. I'm like, yeah, I think she started caring because she wants to fuck you. I don't think that's controversial to say. I think the pacing of this could be okay. The main problem is that it was a long period of bullying, with Lena being one of the direct bullies. I just think that it wasn't thought out well enough. I also think making Lena want to change because she cares about Clara's opinion suddenly is a little weird. It's a little odd, and it just leads me to believe she only wants to do that because she's into her. And the book doesn't really prove me wrong, so Alex is going on break, and then they talk about how Lena and Clara talk about how he's doing well. There's some banter about Lena being a bad trainee, and the customer even comes up and shit talks Lena a little bit. It's like, you know, I remember when she first started, I thought she wouldn't last a week, which is actually something one of my coworkers said about me, except he got fired and I've been here 3 years, so Anywho, I mean, I hate my job, so I wasn't offended when he said it, but I was still kind of like, I do a better job than you. Don't really want to hear it. Also, it's so hard to get fired at my job. So incredibly hard, I promise. Anyway, but Claire's like, yeah, me too. And Lena's like, I don't know if it's Lena or the customer, but someone says, nice to be wrong sometimes, isn't it? I think it's the customer. But Lena starts to bring up how Claire's been distracted lately, yeah, because she kind of wants to do you too, and I don't really get it. Anyway, she feels like Lena's being more genuine. No, she was not doing this, not analyzing Lena's smiles, not noticing how she'd stopped wearing designer clothes to work, going for practical instead, not caring that she was trying to be better. People don't change. Lena James in particular doesn't change. But someone like Lena James doesn't learn latte art in 2 weeks or remember customers' names they've only seen once, or stay late without being asked, without having changed, nor do they turn down fancy internships to stay here. I think she just wants to do you, and that's fine, I suppose. I mean, not really, because she was your bully, but whatever. You're into it, so I guess it's fine. But like, I just don't like this, oh my god, she's changed so much. Has she? Or did she just set her weird ass social chameleon behavior onto a different target now? That's all I'm saying. Also, she literally even says, Lena adapting to her new circumstances like a chameleon, changing colors to blend in. You know, when you're right, you're right. Anyway, Clara then, after they've been working for a while, says you're different with him, and Lena's like, who? And she's like, Alex, when you're training him, you're different than you used to be. Lena's like, is that a bad thing? And she's like, no, it's just different. Clara turned away quickly, grateful for the interruption. This was getting dangerous. This noticing, this awareness, this whatever it was that kept making her pay attention to Lena James. Yeah, it is, and I think you're dumb as hell for this. I can't respect it. But she's going to check the stock room because she just needs to be away for a hot second. And she thinks to herself as the chapter ends, being wrong wasn't supposed to feel this complicated, if you say so. Then we get in the DMs, and Lena's covering Alex for some school thing, and Claire's like, is it an actual school thing? And she's like, doesn't matter, you get me either way. And she's like, I'm literally an expert at coffee now, you should be honored. I'm like, okay. And there's banter. It's dumb. Chapter 13, Lena. Her family is going through all of the stuff that they're trying to move. And her mom is like, we can't keep all of this. The new place is like half the size of your room alone. Which I do think they're being a little ridiculous. But she's like going through her crap. Lena sat on her stripped bed, surrounded by the evidence of her old life. Designer clothes she had barely worn in the last few weeks. Photos from parties she couldn't discern one from the other. A shelf full of participation trophies from activities her parents had paid for, chosen because they were right rather than because Lena had truly wanted to do it. Just like me, she thought. A whole room full of expensive nothing. I'm glad she's having some kind of character development, but I just don't believe that it would happen. if you say so. Okay. But she's like, I have to go to work because she's trying to pick up extra shifts to help them with the moving costs is what she's saying. But really she just can't watch her mom cry over all of the things that they're not keeping. And she's also like, and perhaps because she ... liked work. Feeling useful was ... unexpectedly nice. Is it? I don't know. To me, this feels like when there's an episode of that old show, Undercover Boss, when they have the slightest taste of reality and they're like, oh, I should do something about this. Like, wild. And her mom's like, I still can't believe that you're keeping that job. Like, even with that move, your dad's friend at the bank, which is Bella's dad. And she's like, I have to go. I'm opening with Clara today. And her mom's like, Clara. And she's like, I'm not having this conversation. I'm gonna be late. Bye. And she gets a text on the way to work being like, Clara's running late. It's something about her sister. Can you handle opening? And she's like, no problem. I know the whole routine. It's fine. And she's like, Lena's heart definitely didn't skip at seeing Clara's name, nor did it drop when she realized that the point was Clara wouldn't be there. Anything like that would be ridiculous. I do think it's ridiculous. I do think it's ridiculous that you're kind of making your life harder over a girl you bullied for 4 years in high school because you want her to French kiss you. I think that's odd. And she gets everything ready and Clara comes rushing in. She's like, my sister had an emergency, I had to. And Lena's like, it's fine, everything is ready. I even checked the date on the milk. Clara's like, and the grinder settings. And she's like, they're adjusted for humidity. I did pay attention, you know, sometimes. And Clara's like, sometimes. And then she's like, this is actually correct. She's like, try not to sound so surprised. And she's like, try not to let it go to your head. I'm like, okay. The banter isn't working for me, but whatever. And her phone keeps going off, Lena's does, because she's like, the movers need to know what we're keeping, like what goes to storage or donation, like please come home early to sort it out. And she's not having a good time with reality kind of crashing in. Clara's like, is it bad news? And she's like, it's just moving stuff, it's nothing important. And she's like, you're moving? And she shrugs, but she thinks to herself that really the whole move thing was painful because it was the only home Lena had ever known, which is sad. Moving was deeply traumatic for me. I know it's not for everybody, but it was for me. She's like, yeah, it turns out you can't keep a big house when you have no money. She's like, oh, where are you going? She's like, a tiny place my aunt owns. My mom says it's smaller than my old bedroom. Clara hesitated, and how are you doing with that? Another shrug, though she was pretty sure it wasn't convincing. It is what it is, I suppose. I'm becoming one of the people. I'm sure you're thrilled. Clara pursed her lips. I don't take pleasure in others' bad luck. Right, that's just me. I mean, you should though. I cannot recommend it enough. Schadenfreude is one of the most beautiful things to ever happen, and I said what I said. Every time something bad has been happening to my ex, I'm like, good, karma's getting your ass. Anyway, they get going and she starts staring at Clara again because, of course, when a smile tugged at Clara's lips in response to her flippancy, butterflies fluttered in her stomach. Damn it, it was just Clara. Boring, nerdy, Target sale Clara. Except that wasn't Clara because apparently people weren't just what they dressed in. It's such a rich person thing to say. Holy shit. Such an insane, unhinged, rich person thing to say or think. Like, anyway, she gets a bunch more texts about 3 hours in, being her mom being like, the movers need to know now. Your father says just donate everything. Lena, please respond. And Clara's like, are you okay? Like, you see him? And Lena's like, fine, totally fine. And she's like, hey, just take 5. And she's like, I don't need. And Clara's like, it's not a suggestion. So she's like, okay, thanks. And she tries to make impossible decisions. And it's not easy. And then Bella is there, of course, because of course she is. And she's like, I was just telling Claire here that we're having a goodbye party for your house tonight. You're coming, right? And she's like, I'm working. She's like, all day, seriously? She's like, come on, it's your house. One last rager before the James family joins the common folk. And she says, I can't, we're short-staffed. She's like, God, listen to you, Bella said, looking her up and down. We're short-staffed, like you're one of them now. Lena felt Clara tense beside her, felt the weight of her attention, the way she was clearly waiting to see what Lena would do. I am one of them, Lena said quietly, and I need to get back to work. And Bella's like, wow, I mean, I get that you don't have money anymore, but turning your back on your friends for this shack, that's just, yeah, it is kind of weird. Like, I know that we're going with the angle that they are not real friends. It's still weird because I feel like a lot of times people don't necessarily realize that. And Bella finally, thank fuck, is like, okay, I'm done with this. Like, call me when you're done playing barista with your little friend here, okay? And she's getting out of there. And Clara's like, you can go to your party, you know, we're not actually short-staffed. She's like, oh no, I just don't want to go. Clara raised an eyebrow. It's your house, your friends, your old life. It's not ... Lena struggled to find the words. It's not my life anymore. And I don't think they were my friends either. And Clara says, okay, your choice. And I'm like, I guess. The words echoed in Lena's head as she returned to the register. When was the last time something had been her choice? Before her father lost his money, before she was forced to get this job, before she started noticing things about Clara Brown that she definitely shouldn't be noticing, ... But that was the thing, wasn't it? Somewhere along the way, this had become her choice. Staying at this job, working these shifts, watching Clara move behind the bar, humming under her breath, occasionally almost smiling at something Lena said. That was the most terrifying part of all. I do think it's terrifying because I do think you're throwing away something for a girl you bullied in high school who realistically shouldn't date you. But go off. Chapter 14, Clara. Clara's staring at the spreadsheets and she's like, being there, done that is in trouble. And revenue is down 15% from last year and expenses are up nearly 12%. And there's a new commercial lease 3 blocks down, drawing away regular customers. And Jordan's been avoiding this topic for weeks, but the evidence is all here in black and white. And Lena's like, hey, are you still here? And Clara's like, yeah, monthly inventory. Someone has to do it. And she's like, at 9 on a Friday. She's like, best time, no customers to interrupt. And Lena's like, do you need help? She's like, Lena James offering to stay late. Yeah, she's obsessed with you.
Why you so obsessed with me?
And Claire's like, don't you have moving stuff to do? And she's like, it's done. We're officially moved into the new place. The new place, the significantly smaller, less impressive place that represented the James family's dramatic fall from grace. Clara should probably feel some satisfaction about that. Should be enjoying the karmic justice of it all. Then why don't I? Because you're hard up for chicks, apparently. I cannot understand this. I understand they're teenagers, but a teenager didn't write this. So what is the problem here? She's like, okay, well, if you're serious, I could use some help. So she's like, yeah, okay. They're tossing a bunch of expired syrups. They have a waste log. And Lena's like, okay, so is the shop in trouble? She's like, what makes you say that? And she's like, Jordan's been stressed. You've been checking the numbers more than usual. And you're not exactly subtle when you're worried about something. You get this little crease between your eyebrows. Claire's like, I do not. And she's like, yeah, you do. You're doing it right now. She's like, it's just a routine review. Nothing to worry about. That's such a lie, but okay. But once again, she tells herself about Lena that people don't change. I'm like, well, your little mantra is not working. So maybe we should try a different thing to convince ourselves that we shouldn't be interested in our high school bully. Just a thought. And Claire's like, how's your new place? And she's like, small, like really small. I mean, I haven't been there since they moved our stuff, but we were there this weekend and it's tiny. And my mom keeps messaging me about furniture that won't fit. My dad's pretending that everything's fine, but that's been his way since this mess began. And Claire's like, sounds rough. It's fine, Lena said automatically, then seemed to catch herself. Actually, it's not fine. It's awful. Everything's awful. But what am I supposed to do about it? I mean, I know others have it worse, but I haven't had it like this before, and it's just, I don't know how to deal with it. That's fair, I think. And then Claire is thinking about this while she's checking out Lena, because they're always checking each other out. And damn it if she wasn't just more beautiful like this, without layers of makeup and expensive clothes to hide behind, without her nasty friends as shields around her. This was Lena James stripped down, with her fingers stained by coffee, her hair in a messy ponytail, and her shirt there's 2 ones, but they meant one. Okay. One of the cafes instead of something form-fitting. Stop thinking about what she looks like. She's gorgeous, but you've always known that. She couldn't fall for Lena, not after everything Lena had said and done. So why are you doing it anyway? I feel like we're supposed to be getting that you can try to control your feelings, you can try to control your life, but you will fall for people even if you don't mean to. That doesn't mean you have to date them. That doesn't mean you have to date them. That doesn't mean you have to fuck them. It doesn't mean you have to be with them in any capacity. You can just move on with your day. No one is forcing you at gunpoint to date your high school bully. Also, I really hate the comment about like without the layers of makeup and expensive clothes. I hate when people are down about makeup, are weird about makeup. There is nothing wrong with makeup. Not when you're using it for yourself and reclaiming it or whatever. It always just feels like a weird misogynistic dig. And we don't like when men say it, when they're like, oh, they're so much more beautiful without the makeup and without the whatever. Men don't know what they're looking at when they say, oh, why can't they just be natural? And then they'll point at Sabrina Carpenter, who has like 16 layers of foundation on. And you're like, that's not natural, you weirdo. Hello? Like, I just hate it. And because she's a girl and she wears some makeup to a certain extent. I don't like that she makes the comment of like, oh, without all that makeup. Shut up. I can't stand it. Be quiet. And Claire's like, sometimes things have to fall apart before they get better. At least that's what my mom always says. That's a terrible saying and I hate it. And Lena's like, so your mom's one of those smart people like you, huh? And she's like, you think I'm smart? Lena gave her a duh look. You're the straight A valedictorian. We teased you for being a nerd in boring clothes, but no one ever doubted that you're smart. And Claire's like, okay, well, my mom is smart too. And she's like, she raised me and my sister on her own, worked 2 jobs most of my life. I started here so I could help with the rent and food so mom didn't have to work so much, which is nice of her. But you also shouldn't have to do that. Our system in this country is disgusting and I hate it. She hadn't meant to share that, hadn't meant to offer any personal information at all, but something about the quiet storage room and Lena's unexpected vulnerability and Lena giving her a compliment made it seem okay just this once. Right, just once. If you say so. I've read this book though, so she's asking how she's adjusting to everything, and then there's this. Their eyes met across the storage room and Clara felt something shift between them. Her stomach fluttered as she looked into Lena's sky blue eyes, large and beautiful. Stop it. Sure. Then she's like, do you want to take a break and we can have some leftover banana bread that's homemade? And Lena's like, you're offering to share food with me? Who are you and what have you done with Clara Brown? And she's like, forget it. And she's like, no, I'm starving. I haven't had dinner. Like, please. So they go to the break room to eat the frickin' banana bread. And Lena's like, so what happens after this with college for you? And she's going to California State University at Long Beach. She has a full scholarship. And Lena's like, that's really impressive. And she's like, well, it's necessary. I couldn't afford it if I didn't have it. And that's so sad. And Lena's like, I was supposed to go to UCLA. And she's like, was. And she's like, yeah, it got deferred because the financial aid fell through. Turns out colleges aren't super sympathetic when your dad loses all his money right before deposits are due, which is true. And Claire's like, that's rough, Clara said, and meant it. She might not like Lena. That's a lie and you know it, in parentheses. But she understood the pain of watching a dream slip away. Do you? Because I haven't seen anything that suggests that, but go off. And Lena's like, it's weird. I spent all of high school working toward getting into a good college, but I never actually thought about what I wanted to study, what I wanted to do with my life. It was just ... the next step, you know, what everyone does. Getting a business degree because that's what my dad told me to do. And Claire's like, okay, what would you study if you could choose it? And Lena's like, I don't know. I guess business would be a good idea, like dad said. She's like, what do you want though? And Lena's like, what do you care? And she's like, just making conversation. I'm like, are you? Like, I think maybe I'd like psychology. Understanding why people do what they do might help me figure out why I spent so many years being such a bitch. Yeah, I mean, maybe, but I don't think you should be a psychologist. And Claire's like, you said it, not me. Oh, I know what I was, to you especially. And yet, that somehow makes it worse. Somehow makes it so much worse to me. And Claire doesn't really want to have this conversation, but she's like, why? What did I ever do to you? Like, nothing. That was kind of the point. You didn't need to do anything to be ... who you were. Smart, focused, sure of yourself. She shook her head. Meanwhile, I spent every day terrified that people would figure out I was faking everything. Faking what? Confidence. Knowing who I was, all of it. Lena's voice was barely above a whisper now. I built my whole identity around what people thought of me, around money and status and all these external things. I still have no idea who I am. And I think some of that is fair, but at the same time, you can't pretend that classism didn't have a very large part of what we're talking about here. You can't pretend that the classism didn't have anything to do with it. It did. Dear God. But Claire's like, you're not the same person you were then. I don't believe that.
I don't believe that.
And Lena's like, no, who knew 2 months could do so much? Again, the very small amount of time in this book that all of this happens in doesn't make any fucking sense. I would not get over you bullying me for 4 years. Why? But Claire's like, I'm not so sure about myself. I'm figuring things out just like you are. And Lena's like, you could have fooled me. You always seem to know everything. I mean, you were valedictorian and you stood up there talking to all of us, for all of us, like we hadn't put you through hell for all those years. And she's like, you really are an artist with words, you know. That speech was amazing. And Claire's like, you listened? And then she recites some of it. She's like, it's not like I memorized it, but that part stood out. I don't think I realized it then, but I know now that I definitely underestimated you. And then in her head, Claire's like, people don't change, except it seems they do, or Lena James does anyway. Or is it just a ploy? Is Bella hiding somewhere with a camera? And I think that that's more realistic to be thinking about, honestly. And here's my hot take as somebody who was in the top 10 of my class, always seemed to know what I was doing. My parents were never worried about me because they always seemed to think I knew what I was doing. I didn't. couldn't. I needed help desperately and I couldn't get any, but I was in survival mode because I was trying to do the exact equation of things you're supposed to do so that you can go and get a good job and be happy and not rely upon your shitty abusive parents who treat you terribly. I don't think that a lot of people in poverty who end up somehow being top of their class or what have you actually have it all figured out like you think they do. I think that that's a illusion that you believe. And I also think rich people have the time and opportunity to figure out who they want to be, to decide who they want to be, and they can fuck around, they can mess up, they can make mistakes because they can afford to. The rest of us can't. And even then I still made mistakes and I'm still paying for it. And I will be for a long time. I just think that this whole thing is contrived. I think it's trying to glorify being poor as making you somehow automatically morally superior and like you have everything figured out and you're going to be successful and all this fucking crap. But it's not true. Generational wealth does set you up for success. It does. It's a fact. If you even just think about the interest rate on student loans, and I know she has a full scholarship, but just pretend for a second she didn't. The interest rate on student loans means you pay an insane amount more than any rich person who can pay in cash ever will. I'm tired of you pretending like this is some kind of amazing moral grandstand as if Clara ever had a choice. She didn't. She got handed the hand she was dealt. I'm tired. I'm so tired of this crap. Anyway, Claire's like, we should finish inventory. And then she thinks this crap. I'm not falling for Lena James. No way. She's a spoiled brat. She's only here because she has to. She... ... Claire's mind rebelled against her own arguments because the Lena she'd come to know over these months was hardly spoiled anymore. She took on extra shifts without complaint. She remembered regulars' orders and asked about their lives. And the way her face lit up when she talked about the showcase, there was genuine passion there. No. Stop noticing these things. Stop cataloging all the ways she's changed. But it was too late. The Lena Clara had known from high school, the spoiled princess who'd walked through the door that first day, and the Lena who stood across the shop now were like different people. And this Lena, the real Lena underneath all the designer labels and practiced smiles, was someone Clara found herself drawn to despite every defense she'd built. Damn it. See, I don't understand this. It's only been 2 months. I know they're children, but I can't. Jordan's there and he's like, hey Clara, are you still here? And she's like, back here. He's like, hey, what are you both still doing here? And Lena's like, hey, I'm helping. And Clara's like, hey Jordan, why are you here so late? And he's like, I just got off the phone with the owner and I came back to just think. And Clara's like, about what? And he's like, about the future of this place. And his expression looks bad. He's like, things are worse than we thought. Chapter 15, Lena. Jordan goes on to explain, we have 3 months tops. That's how long we have before the owner pulls the plug. And I would like to argue that I know that there are a lot of reasons why they're not making enough money. However, the sheer amount of overtime that Clara and Lena must do is probably not helping the bottom line. Now, I think they deserve that money because $9 is a joke. But at the same time, if we're talking about this business failing, that might have something to do with it. And Clara's just like, there's got to be something we can do. Have you looked into small business loans, community fundraising? And Jordan's like, the owner has already done that. And the new place down the street is killing us. Unless we can boost revenue by 30% in the next quarter, it's over. And Lena's doing the math in her head and she's like, that would mean roughly an extra $100 a day every day, which is not impossible, but it's not exactly easy. And she's like, I should leave because this is none of my business. This job is a temporary situation, a paycheck until I can figure my life out, and it would be inconvenient but not devastating for me. And she's like, but why does her chest feel tight at the thought? Because you're into Clara, you want to bang her, and that's fine, but leave me out of it. Jordan's like, sorry that you have to hear this, Lena. Like, I was planning to keep it quiet for a while because I don't want to panic everyone. And Claire was like, she would have found out eventually. Everyone's gonna find out. The straining Clara's voice made Lena's chest tighten further. This place clearly mattered to Clara. More than just a job, more than just a paycheck. It was her domain, the place where she belonged. And I wrote, yes, I figured that out, thank you. However, I'm also like, the place where Clara belongs is a $9 an hour job when she got a full scholarship to a big university. The classism is still staggering. Anyway, Clara's like, I'm gonna go finish inventory. And Jordan's like, Clara. And she's like, I'm finishing it. And Jordan's just like, can you just make sure she doesn't stay here all night, Lena, please? And she just thinks, you want me to look after Clara? And I agree. I think that's mental. I don't know why the road is so loud tonight. It is, what time is it? It is 9:30. Why is the road so loud? I don't know. But Lena's like, okay, sure. And after Jordan left, it's all very quiet. And Lena's thinking to herself. What could she possibly say? Sorry your coffee shop is dying. Sorry you're about to lose the place you obviously love. Sorry, but I'm the rich girl. Remember, this is just a job to me. Except it wasn't. Not anymore. And Clara's like, you can just go. I don't need babysitting. And Lena's like, we're not finished here. I'm like, okay. And Clara's like, you really want to stay here and count coffee beans with me until midnight? And Lena's like, no, but I'm not going anywhere. And she thinks to herself, I don't want to leave and I'm going insane. I think you both are insane. So maybe you do deserve each other, but what do I know? And after working together for a while, she's like, so do you have any ideas for saving this place? And then Clara's like, why do you care? Is it so hard to believe I might actually care about something besides myself? And I wrote in my notes, actually, it is hard to believe. Crazy. And Clara answers, you're Lena James. Why would Lena James care about a rundown cafe? Lena wanted to be offended, but she couldn't. Not really. Not when Clara had every reason to doubt her commitment to anything beyond herself. Not when, until recently, those doubts would have been completely justified. Yes, I agree. But Lena says, well, believe it.
Believe it! So believe it! Then believe it!
And Claire's like, okay, what ideas do you have? And Lena's like, okay, we need to make this place different. The new coffee shop down the street has all the fancy equipment and trendy decor, but they don't have ... What? And she thinks, Lena almost said, but caught herself, community, history, the things that make this place special. Good save, I guess. And Claire's like, since when do you think this place is special? Since it became the one constant in my life. Since I started looking forward to coming here. Since you started almost smiling at me. Okay, your thoughts? See, so this is my other argument about this book. Does Lena actually care about anyone other than herself for real, for real? I don't think so, no. And you're like, but she clearly cares about this place because she cares about Clara. No. I think she cares about Clara in so much as that she wants to do her. And that's a self-interest. That's a selfish interest in the face of what's going on for Clara in general, including the fact that you're Clara's high school bully. This is dumb. Whatever. I still think she's a selfish weirdo, but she's like, never mind, let's finish inventory and then we'll brainstorm later. Page break, it's the morning rush. It's too busy to talk, but by the time lunch rolls around, Lena has a list of ideas, and I will read you the ideas. Local artist showcase with a rotating gallery wall, extended evening hours with live music. You guys are already open till 9, so that's kind of crazy, but okay. Said social media campaign, stories from regulars, behind the scenes, stories from regulars, that kind of stuff. Can you stop, sir? You don't need that. You need caffeine like you need a hole in the head, okay? And Clara comes up behind her, is like, what's that? She was close enough for Lena to note the gold flecks in her irises. Personal space, guys.
Hey, welcome back to Personal Space. I'm your host, Philip Jacobs, and let me tell you, I care about my personal space. Whoa.
Why is my body reacting to her proximity, dumb body?
You know, I take personal space pretty seriously, up to the point that I don't even care about this. I'm not even interested in having this skin on my personal space.
And Lena's like, I have ideas, they're probably dumb though. And Clara reads them and she's like, these aren't bad. She's like, they're just a start. And Claire's like, the social media thing, you'd be good at that part. And she's like, I would? You spent all of high school managing your image online. Might as well put those skills to use for something worthwhile. That was when I could post about a new handbag every day, Lena said. Not sure it's going to work on a coffee shop. I don't care that she's poor now. We need to pull out the fucking guillotine. We need to stop letting these hoes get away with this.
You can't keep getting away with it! He can't keep getting away with it! He won't.
She also says I could reach out to some people, like my dad still has connections with local business groups. Maybe we could host their meetings here. And Claire's like, we don't need charity from your dad's rich friends. And she's like, it's not charity if they're paying for coffee and food, it's business. She's like, what's the problem? The problem is, Clara stopped, visibly collecting herself. The problem is that's not who we are. We're not some corporate hangout for suits. No, we're a failing coffee shop that's going to close in 3 months if we don't do something drastic. Which she has a good fucking point this one time, okay? Everyone's money is green. You still want this job to exist. You care about this place. Take the rich people's money. You don't get it, Clara said. This place means something to people, to the regulars who've been coming here for years, to Jordan who's worked here since high school, to you. Lena finished for her, her heart thrumming faster. I know. She's like, so I don't want to turn it into something it's not to survive. Well, sometimes you have to pivot a little bit. I don't really get it, but whatever. And she's like, changing is better than not surviving at all. And Clara's laughter was bitter. And you know all about change these days. Anger flared quick and hot. Yes, as a matter of fact, I do. I'm I'm living in a place the size of my old garage. I'm working here for minimum wage. I had to defer college for a whole year. My entire life is one big chance now, and you hate every second of it. Clara's voice was flat. You're just waiting for your dad to fix everything so you can go back to your real life. That's not, Lena started, then stopped, because wasn't that true? Hadn't she been thinking exactly that from the beginning? That this was all temporary, just a detour before getting back to who she was supposed to be? Except now she wasn't so sure who that was anymore. So I still don't understand why we're making this a weird moral grandstand thing. Having money makes life easier. And if Clara wasn't stupid, she would want Lena to get all her money back while her conscience is still allegedly changed so she can help save the fucking coffee shop with her rich person money. I don't understand this. I truly do not. You don't know what I want, she said finally, her voice low. Don't I? Clara challenged. You want your old life back. If you were given a choice, stay here and work for minimum wage or return to your money status and your shiny friends who are just a couple of years away from Botox, then what would you choose? Are you really telling me you'd choose this? Lena's breath came in quick as she took in Clara's words. Of course I want the money back. Money makes everything easier, but what? Clara stood straighter, her hands on her hips. Damn it, you're so beautiful when you're furious. Lena, get a grip. But now I don't just want the money, Lena said. I want something else. Like what? Like you, her mind whispered. She wanted Clara, and not just her approval or her respect or her friendship either. She wanted something more, something terrifying. See, I don't feel like it's a non-selfish desire. She wants Clara for herself. That is a selfish desire. I also think Clara is barking up the wrong tree because she's like, won't you just fuck off and get your money? She had that opportunity to at least make way more money with Bella's dad, and she chose not to do it because she hit herself on the head and fell in love with you somehow. I don't really get it, but go off, I guess. But Lena lies and she's like this place, like doing something that matters. And Clara's like, you're serious? And she's like, yes, I am. Why? The question was quiet, almost vulnerable. Why do you suddenly care about this place? Because it's where I found myself, because it's where I found you, and you will never look at me that way, so I'll never say. I wish she wouldn't look at you like that, because what the hell are we doing? Lena's like, because it's the one thing in my life that makes sense right now and I'm not about to lose it. Like, so if you don't like my ideas, fine, but come up with some better ones. Don't just dismiss them because they came from me. My break's over, think about it. She just walks away. And something's different between them. They've argued so many times, but this time is different. I'm like, okay, if you say so. She was halfway through making a cappuccino when the realization fully crystallized in her mind. She was falling in love with Clara Brown, and the coffee shop where they'd found each other was dying. Perfect timing, just like everything in her life right now. Again, love, huge stretch, but okay. And we're back in the DMs, and it's Naomi and Clara talking about the coffee shop might be closing down and Lena offering to help. And Naomi clocks her and is like, you like her. And she's like, I tolerate her sometimes. And she's like, that's Claire speak for I have a massive crush. Damn girl, she bullied you for years. And I'm like, yes, so why are we entertaining this? Like, okay, whatever. Anyway, Naomi doesn't want her to get hurt because duh. Chapter 16, Clara, she's still thinking about the spreadsheet and obsessing, and she has Lena's list next to her laptop. Clara had initially dismissed them as superficial. Of course, Lena would think social media and flashy events could fix everything, but after a sleepless night, she'd found herself returning to them, looking for possibilities. The artist showcase had potential. They had the wall space, and local artists might bring in their friends. The specialty drink idea wasn't bad either, and the loyalty program, well, they should have had one already. So her ideas aren't bad, you just hate her. And look, I get it, because when anyone I hate says something even remotely intelligent, I don't want to listen to them either. But it's that wrong to admit. But like, come on, you want to save the coffee shop for some reason. Also, you should all get insane promotions for wanting to save a coffee shop this bad. It doesn't make any sense. Also, I just have a stink bug under my camera right now, like stop jamming under my camera, you little gross weirdo. And Jordan comes in and is like, you're here early, and she's like, I couldn't sleep, I'm trying to figure out how to pull off a miracle. And he looks at the paper and he's like, are those Lena's ideas? And she's like, you've seen them? And he's like, no, she just mentioned them yesterday and said you weren't enthusiastic. And he's like, hey, they aren't bad, you know. And Claire's like, I know. And he's like, then why the resistance? She's like, because they're Lena's ideas, because she's been here 5 minutes and suddenly thinks she knows how to save the place we've been running for years. 5 minutes. Jordan raised an eyebrow. It's been almost 2 months, Clara, and she's not the same person who walked in that first day. I know that too. I know it all too well. She has been here for like 5 minutes. 2 months is nothing. At any job, 2 months is nothing. Who are you talking to? Jordan's like, so what's the real problem? And she doesn't want to talk about it really. And she's like, okay, I just don't want to change what makes this place special. If we turn it into some trendy Instagram spot, it won't be ours anymore. It's like, no one's suggesting that. Look at what she wrote, community, history, the things that make this place special. She gets it, Clara. I mean, she at least can analyze what makes this place different and more sellable, I suppose. Clara's like, I need more than just ideas. We need a real plan. And he's like, okay, let's make one. Tomorrow morning before opening, we'll do a staff meeting. Everyone contributes. And she's like, everyone? And he's like, yes, everyone. You know, it's okay to admit when someone you didn't expect much from turns out to have something to offer. And she's like, I never said Lena doesn't have something to offer. And he's like, you didn't have to. Your face says it every time she makes a good point. And she's like, that's ridiculous. And he's like, if you say so, we're opening in 15. So, and Lena's early and she's like, I couldn't sleep and I brought more ideas. A lot of ideas, including potential cost breakdown, rough timeline. And she's like, you did all this last night. And she's like, yeah, I couldn't sleep because she wants to do you. You're welcome. Claire's like, this is thorough. And she's like, I can be thorough when it's something that matters. And then we get her checking out Lena again. No makeup beyond some mascara. And she probably didn't realize how the lack of makeup only heightened how beautiful she was. And I just wrote again, I hate this misogynistic bullshit. I hate it. And I also hate how you think that she should cater what she looks like to what you approve of. I can't stand that. As somebody who's goth, I can't get down with that. People should be allowed to do whatever they want with their bodies without you making it your business. It's offensive to me. She tells Lena about the meeting tomorrow and says, you should bring this list. She's like, really? And Claire's like, really? It's a starting point. And Lena gives her a genuine smile, which obviously does something to Clara's fifis because Clara hit her head the other day and now she's not right. But they have to get ready to open and then they're going through the morning rush. And there's a sign about one of their more premium blends. So this professor asks for to try something that he hasn't tried before that's more expensive. And there's also a message that just says, ask about our seasonal drinks. And it's Lena's script. So Clara's like, when did you do that? And she's like, on my 10-minute break while you were busy. Like, I've noticed that we rotate new beans, but we never highlight them. And I thought it might help sell some of the premium stuff. And then another customer comes and asks for the same thing. So it's clearly working. And Lena is like trying to really upsell this and like describing it and stuff. And Clara is just staring at her because they're gay and they both hit their head. She's just like, stop noticing all of that. I can't fall for her of all people. She's a spoiled brat. She's only here because she has to. She could have gotten out with she could have gotten out with Bella's dad, but she didn't. So I don't know why we're still harping on this one point, but whatever. And Lena's like, do I have something on my face? And Claire's like, what? And she's like, you're staring at me. And she's like, I'm not. And she's like, Claire's like, it's nothing. Just good job with the sign. And Lena looks pleasantly surprised. And then Naomi bursts in. She's like, you haven't been answering my texts, damn it. And Clara's like, I have been busy. How'd the portfolio review go? And she's like, amazing. And then she sees Lena and she's like, oh, hey. And Lena's like, hey. And Naomi's like, what's happening? The tension in here is weird. Clara's like, nothing's happening. Okay. It's the thing with the shop. And Naomi's like, the thing with the shop, really? But I'm like, thankfully someone in here isn't stupid. And Lena's like, yeah, this place is in financial trouble because she doesn't understand what they're talking about. And she's like, we might close in 3 months if we don't do something. And Naomi's like, okay, what are you guys gonna do? And Clara's like, we've been working on some ideas and Lena's been helping. And Naomi's like, oh, she has she? What kind of ideas? And she's like, just the brainstorming kind, nothing too concrete, you know? And Clara thinks the humility was new too. The old Lena would have seized any opportunity to take credit. See, I don't think people change this much, this quickly. I just don't believe it. I know they're teenagers and their brains are still developing, but I don't believe you. Anyway, they have meeting tomorrow, she says to Naomi, and Naomi offers to help because she did a whole social media class for like small business stuff. There was a whole unit or whatever. It's like, and I know a bunch of artists who might be into showing their work there. And Clara's like, how did you know we were planning to do art shows? And she's like, I didn't, but it's a coffee shop. Art shows are kind of a no-brainer. And Lena smirks at her and I'm like, yep. And Clara's like, okay, you should come to the meeting. We need all the help we can get. Naomi's like, cool. And then she tells her that Lena's drink is really good. And Lena's like, Clara's been teaching me. Naomi's like, I have an early class. We're talking about this later. And I don't understand why she has school because art school doesn't run 24/7, 365 because I went there. It doesn't. You can take some summer classes, but unless you establish that, like, I'm just thinking like, why are you starting so much earlier than everybody else? Doesn't make any sense. Lena's like, your friend doesn't like me that much. And Clara's like, she knows you from school. tolerable. That's why. He's like, does that mean you like me now? And Clara's like, you're tolerable these days. And Lena's like, thanks, you're tolerable these days too. Clara dared to glance at her, their eyes meeting across the counter, and for a moment Clara felt like the world stopped existing around them. Kiss her, her whole body screamed. But that wasn't ... Lena had been with different boys all through high school, all muscular jocks from the sports team. Whatever this was, this stupid infatuation, Clara would just have to shove it down into a hole. Later that night, as Clara scrolled through her phone before bed, she found herself thinking about that smile, about how Lena's entire face had lit up with it, how different she looked when she wasn't performing for an audience. Are we just saying that Lena was autistic and masking and that her special interest was being rich and being mean? I'm kidding, but oh my god. And then she's just like, what are you doing? This is Lena James you're thinking about. I'm like, yes, and you won't stop, so I don't know why you keep fighting it. I think the more you fight it, the more taboo it feels to you and the more excited your body gets about it. Can we stop? But she is looking forward to seeing Lena tomorrow, and she's like, crap. Chapter 17, Lena. Lena has been setting up an account for Been There, Done That. And she's like, how is it even possible they don't have an Instagram in this day and age? I don't know, it's run by dinosaurs. And she's nervous about it because she actually cares about it. And she's like, it's just social media. You've been doing this since you were 14, but it had been different then. I'm like, yeah, I know. But social media wasn't the only thing on her mind. Ever since she realized about Clara, she'd been trying to make sense of her feelings. How could she possibly be in love with Clara, with a woman? She'd had boyfriends before, real relationships with guys like Tyler and Jason, where she'd felt something genuine. Those feelings hadn't been fake, but this thing with Clara, it was different, stronger, more consuming. Maybe I'm bisexual? How do you even know? Like, I will say one thing. I will say that I'm glad they didn't do the mean girl is secretly a lesbian trope. Thank God for that. It's fine when we say it. It's not fine when you say it. But she thinks about all the moments she's been checking out women too, actually, and that she's actually just been into women also. She likes boys and girls, hooray. She's like, even if Clara happened to like girls too, which Lena doesn't know, Clara would never look at her that way, not after everything. I wish she wouldn't. I wish she had some self-respect. I wish she cared about her own dignity, but she doesn't. She's gonna fall for this. I can't believe it. Anyway, she's like, well, I gotta work on the Instagram because it's not gonna build itself. And I'm like, that's for sure. Instagram has been the hardest one to gain followers on for me, and it is exhausting. I've basically stopped trying. Do I still cross post there? Yeah, but at the same time I'm like, well, whatever will be will be. And she's been taking a lot of pictures for the shop to start the Instagram, and she's taken so many pictures of Clara because she's a homosexual.
I'm a homosexual! I'm a homosexual!
I'm a homosexual. She's expecting it to be Clara or Jordan, but Naomi is like, hey, I'm looking for Clara. And she's like, yeah, she's in at noon. She's like, oh, and then it's a little awkward for a hot second. And Naomi's like, well, I'll just, and she's like, actually, Naomi, can I talk to you for a second? She wants to talk about the art showcase, and she mentioned knowing some artists who would be interested. And she's like, yeah, a few. Why? And she's like, I'm trying to put together a concrete proposal for tomorrow's meeting. I could use some input from someone who knows the art scene. Wait, I'm confused because they were all at work and Jordan said we're gonna have the meeting tomorrow, right? And then now suddenly somehow for some stupid reason Clara's not there and she's not starting till noon, but she was already there and she was already working. Wait, but it's still tomorrow? That doesn't make any fucking sense. Okay, whatever. We are not supposed to analyze it too closely, guys, obviously. But Naomi's like, oh, you're serious about this? And Lena's like, yes. And she's like, why? She's like, I mean, no offense, but this isn't really your scene and you spent 2 months complaining about working here. She's like, yeah, that was before. And she's like, before what? And she's like, before it mattered. Look, I know you don't like me. You have plenty of reasons not to because I was awful to you in school. More awful to Clara. Lena's cheeks heated. I know, I was a jerk. A first-class diva thinking you were better than everyone. Or I knew I wasn't and I was trying desperately to hide it. Yes, I know. And now you've changed. The tone in Naomi's voice made it perfectly clear she didn't believe it for a minute. And this place matters. And I'm just kind of like, you know what? I'm with Naomi. This isn't real. This is like based on a selfish want of Clara. And I will die on that hill. Also, I knew I wasn't and I was trying to desperately hide it about the being better than everyone. I don't genuinely believe that's how rich people operate. I genuinely don't. I really do think they believe they're better than us. If you know anything that's been coming out about rich people who are in the files, you know what I'm talking about. I don't like bringing it up in this kind of a context because it feels shitty. However, if you know even some of the things they've been doing from those freaking files, they do not think that the rest of us are human, basically. They see themselves as above us and that they deserve to do whatever depraved, fucked up thing they want to do. So to me, this is a load of horse shit. it's wish fulfillment. It's not real. She's like, well, I do actually want to help save this place. Can we just work together for Clara? And Naomi's like, you're doing this for Clara. She's like, no, I'm just suggesting you work with me to help Clara. She's like, but you don't care about her. She's like, she's a coworker. Naomi's like, sure, fine. What's your idea for the showcase? And she was talking about working with artists on like a rotating basis. The wall space is pretty good. They could host opening events. And she's like, yeah, my studio program is looking for places to exhibit all the time, and there's a whole community of independent artists who can't afford gallery fees. Lena's like, exactly. What would we need? How would we go about organizing that? She's like, well, you need a proper hanging system. And she sketches something in Lena's notebook, and it's like something like this with different sizes, and you need decent lighting. It's like, okay, how much would that cost? And she's like, well, it depends on how DIY you want to go. Maybe like $200 for a basic system. She's like, my professor might have some fair stuff for the first event anyway. And she's like, and for the artists, would they expect a cut of any sales, or would just having the exposure be enough? And she's like, you let them sell their work. And she's like, yeah, isn't that kind of the point? And I'm like, Lena, I don't believe you suddenly care about other people suddenly. Rich people love exploiting people. What are we talking about? And Naomi's like, well, most businesses want free art to just decorate their walls, not actual partnerships with artists. And Lena's like, that's stupid. If artists are bringing in customers, they should benefit too. Maybe a small commission for the shop just to cover costs, but most of the sales should go to them. She's like, who are you and what have you done with Lena James? And that's my question too. People do not change this much overnight. I don't get it. She's like, you just don't seem like the same person at all. The one who made everyone's lives miserable in high school. And she's like, everyone's? And she's like, everyone except your clique. Yeah. She's like, I know, I wasn't great. I made myself miserable too. I didn't even know it. I'm like, again, you're circling back to making it about you. And I think that just shows you haven't changed at all. I don't get it. I'm trying to be better. I know that it doesn't erase anything, but I am trying. And she's like, because of Clara. And she's like, what? It's like, you're trying to be better because of Clara. Naomi repeated, not a question this time. I see how you look at her. Panic fluttered in Lena's chest. I didn't know you were... What a bunch of assholes. I didn't know you were into girls, Naomi said. Didn't you just date football jocks? Lena's cheeks had turned painfully hot. Not into girls, liar. Just Clara? Naomi smirked. I'm not. This is the most tongue-tied I've ever heard you, Naomi said. Interesting. She's like, I'm not gonna say anything, but you've hurt Clara enough, honestly. If you hurt her again, I'm gonna come down on you like a hammer. And I'm like, I don't think you should be entertaining this at all, but okay. She's like, I'm not trying to hurt her. I just want to help save this place. She's like, okay, then let's figure out how to make the art show happen, blah, 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 blah. And they talk about the opening event type thing. They could do it after hours on a Friday, and Naomi knows a local musician, blah blah blah. And Naomi's like, this is actually a good idea. With the right promotion, this could work. And Lena shows her the Instagram, is like, could you like tell some of your artist friends maybe? And Naomi's like, it needs more content for sure, but yeah, I'll spread the word. And she's like, you're pretty good at the marketing stuff. And Lena's like, that was basically my entire life before maintaining the right image, knowing exactly what would get attention. I just never used it for anything useful before. And then Naomi drops that she should see some of Clara's photos because she does photos as like a hobby or whatever. She took a photography class at the community college when, I don't know. And again, the school timing for this, very confusing. Maybe it's because I've been to college twice and I know how it works, but I'm just like, I don't understand. Like, this was new information. In all their conversations, Clara had never mentioned photography. What else didn't Lena know about her? And I wrote in my notes, and yet we didn't hear about this at all from Clara's POV. Yeah, I said what I said. I think it's weird to have a secret hobby that you like, but in your POV we hear nothing, and it's just revealed to us in a convoluted way in the other person's POV. Dumb, don't like it. Anyway, Clara's at work and she's like, hey, everything okay with you guys? And Naomi's like, yeah, we're fine. We're just collaborating on the art show idea. Also, I wish I could be as happy as this stupid stick bug under my camera. He's just like grooming and going like, tiny idiot, like. Also, it's bad for him because he doesn't know that this is a house where my dogs kill bugs. I feel bad, but I can't stop them. Aaliyah particularly has a talent of ripping all their legs off somehow and then spitting them out. I don't understand it because she's like 50 pounds. Doesn't make any sense to me. I hope he lives long and prospers, but I don't think it'll happen. But they're going over the outline and Clara's like, oh, that's great, yay. And Naomi's like, I gotta go, I have class in like 20, see you in the morning. And they're like, yep, Okay. Clara's like, you and Naomi working together. I didn't see that coming. Lena's like, we have a common goal and she knows things I don't. Clara's like, I'm impressed that you reached out to her. Like, that couldn't have been easy. And she's like, I'm learning to do hard things. Not really, but okay. She's like, didn't your break end like 10 minutes ago? And Lena's like, crap, I lost track of the time. And she's like, well, there aren't a lot of customers out here and Jordan's been fine. And she's like, still. And they brush their arms and the casual contact shouldn't have made her skin tingle, but it did. Okay, we're back in the DMs. Their Instagram is up to 78 followers. Hooray. And then she asks about the photos and she's like, it's just a hobby. And she's like, okay, well, you send them to me for the account. She's like, maybe, but don't make a big deal out of it. It's like, it's just pictures. Anyway, chapter 18, Clara. Clara arrived there like 30 minutes early because she's like stressed out and she printed spreadsheets. She has her own ideas neatly organized and she stopped for donuts for the whole team for morale, which is nice, I suppose. But Lena is also here early and so is Naomi, and Clara's like, you guys are here early. She's like, again. And Lena's like, I couldn't sleep and we finalized the art showcase proposal. And Clara's like, Naomi's like, turns out rich girl has some decent ideas. I'm like, okay, if you say so. She's like, how long have you been here? And they're like, since 6. Lena texted me questions last night and I realized we needed to just like adjust a few things. And she's like, they're texting? Lena had texted Naomi. Clara felt a small, unexpected twinge of ... something. Not jealousy, certainly. Just surprised because Lena and Naomi were texting. It's not like you own Lena. You don't even like her. She'll text other people. Aren't you embarrassed? Isn't this embarrassing? But they want her to look things over before Jordan, Maya, and Alex show up. I guess the owner is not in on these plans. Like, once again, she says, this is thorough. Once again, can we think of something else to say? She's like, this is really good. And she's like, well, I guess I just like listened to my dad at his like business parties and something rubbed off at some point. And I'm like, if you say so. And Naomi's professor is going to get them a discount on hardware for the hanging or whatever. And they already set up social media accounts on Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok. Okay. And there's going to be like cross promotion between them and the artists. Good, I suppose. And Clara's like, I'm just kind of surprised about how much you've done already and how seriously you're taking this. And Naomi mutters like, oh, I think she's taking it seriously, all right. I'm like, yeah, she's taking getting in your pants seriously, that's for sure. And he's like, I just wanted to help. Yeah, okay, I'll believe that when I see it. And Jordan's like, you guys are all here early. And everyone's starting to step in and they're like, didn't we say 7? And Jordan's like, apparently this turned into a 6:30 meeting. And Naomi's like, actually it was 6. They go over that they need to make 30% more, blah, blah, blah. And then they go over the art showcase idea and the social media content stuff. And he's like, okay, how soon can we launch that? And they're like, well, we could do 2 weeks for the first showcase. I've talked to a few artists who are interested. We just need to finalize the hanging system and the lighting. And Claire's like, I can handle that. Like, I've got some experience with gallery lighting now. Lena's like, from your photography class? And she's like, yeah. And she thinks about how something about interest in photography is just private. Okay, if you say so. I don't understand why we always act like art stuff is either your main bag or something to be ashamed of and not talk about. Don't get it. And Naomi's like, we could feature some of your work in future showcases or whatever. Everyone's like, no, you should. And Claire's like, no. And Alex is like, what about the specialty drink idea? Can I work on that part? And they're like, yeah, sure. You and Maya can develop a signature drink for the showcase, something that goes with the theme. Lena's like, I can do the social media. And Claire's like, yeah, that makes sense. You know that better than the rest of us. And Jordan is like, okay, what about the extended hours? I can adjust the schedule, but I need a volunteer to manage those evenings. And Lena and Clara say at the same time, I can do it. And he's like, okay, both of you two work well together anyway. And Clara wants to protest, but she's like, oh, okay, I guess when we're not antagonizing each other, we do work well together. I'm like, okay, girl. So they have a plan. Hooray. And then they're like breaking up the meeting. And Jordan's like, she's not what I expected, Lena. And he's like, I thought she would quit after 2 weeks. And Clara's like, yeah, I didn't think so either. And Lena approaches them with her notebook and she's like, since we're going to be managing both of the events, we should probably coordinate. When are you free to talk about detail stuff? And Clara's like, I'm closing, so like after maybe. Lena's like, okay, I'll bring dinner. I might run late. Sure, that's fine, Clara said, trying to sound casual even though her stomach did strange flips at the thought of having dinner with Lena, just the two of them. Like a date. It's not a date, it's work. And why are there so many loud trucks? It's like 10 o'clock at night. What the hell? Anyway, I've been waiting to do this for a hot second. I'm into musicals. If you don't like it, leave. But Naomi she has to go back to class. Again, what is the school schedule looking like? I don't know. Why is this stink bug doing a handstand? You okay? Yeah, like why is this stink bug doing a handstand? Are they dying? I don't want to Google it, but I am a little concerned. Oof, all right. Anyway, they're gonna be opening in 15 minutes because Naomi is gone. And he's like, okay, Clara, go home because you're gonna be working at noon. And she's like, nah, I'm just gonna hang out here because it takes like half an hour to get here and back anyway, like it's like each way or whatever. He's like, sorry for getting you out of bed so early when you don't start till noon. And she's like, yeah, it's not like I haven't been here before. Page break. She and Lena are kind of smiling at each other, and Alex is like, what is that? And he's like, it's better when you guys aren't fighting. Don't care, whatever. He's like, the shop feels different now that you two aren't glaring at each other. Shop did feel different, or maybe she was the one who felt different because things are different. She's different. Sure. You say so. She's trying to blame it on the relief of having a plan, but we all know that's not true. Chapter 19, Lena. Lena's bringing the takeout. She went to a cheap Thai place because takeout is expensive. And she's nervous and she thinks to herself, you're being ridiculous. And she's like, I hope Thai's okay. She's like, yeah, that's fine. I'm starving. And she's like, I've got all the plans spread out on the big table. And they make some small talk. Yada yada. Lena took the moment alone to steady herself. This was work, she reminded herself. Professional planning for a professional event to save their jobs. The fact that Clara's smile made her pulse race was irrelevant. I wish it was irrelevant. I do love love. There's something about the bully premise that is kind of deeply triggering to me, I think. Deeply triggering to me, personally. I remember one time I was in line behind two people who had been awful to me since middle school. After we had graduated high school, it wasn't that long. I think maybe it was winter break or something for the first year of college. And I was in line behind them at Walmart because I needed my prescriptions. And they hadn't noticed me, thank God, because I don't know what the fuck I would have done. But they were talking about how they were going to become, wait for it, nurses. And that's why I no longer trust the US healthcare system. I said what I said. Jesus. But Clara's impressed by how many followers Lena's getting, and she's like, I was just really knowing what hashtags to use, and Naomi's friends have big followings in the art scene. And Clara's like, it's more than that. You're so good at this. Okay. And Lena doesn't know what to do with a genuine compliment, which is fair. But the air between them shifted. Don't worry about that, folks. Then they go to talk about opening night. They're going to try to extend hours until 10. And the artist talk is going to be scheduled at 7:30. And it gives people to arrive after work, but still keeps us from running too late, if you say so. And they're talking about refreshments. And Jordan suggested wine, but they need a temporary license, which Lena looked into. A one-day permit is apparently surprisingly affordable. And they'll do like a limited selection of wine and beer and specialty coffee stuff that Alex is making. Hooray. They continued like this for another hour, working through logistics with careful professionalism, yet Lena couldn't help noticing the small details. How Clara tucked her hair behind her ear when concentrating, the way her eyes crinkled slightly at the corners when she approved of an idea, the faint coffee scent that clung to her even after hours. Okay, it's not for me, and that's fine. I've been running into some that are just like that. I have finally found a contender for worst book I've ever read, though, so that'll be coming out at some point, okay? Clara asks if they need anything else, and Lena says, yeah, we need a photographer to cover the event. She's like, okay, did Naomi have someone in mind? She's like, no, but I was thinking you could do it. She's like, yeah, you take photography classes, like, why not? And Clara's like, what makes you think I'd be any good? I don't know if you are, Lena admitted. You never sent me any pictures, but I'd like to see. Do you have anything you could show me just to get an idea of your style? I mean, not that I'd tell you not to shoot the event anyway, but I'd like to see it. Her heart pounded as she waited for Clara's reaction. Would she refuse? Would she be angry? And Clara says, wait here. I personally would not open myself up to critique from my high school bully, but what do I know? Not much, apparently. And she's like, you just have your photos here? And she's like, no, I have them in my bag because I have class tomorrow. Are they taking summer classes? I'm so deeply confused about the timeline of the college events because it will say that she's leaving for college later. So if she's taking community college classes and so is Naomi or something, I just feel it would have been nice if it was established. And Lena's like, hey, you don't have to show it to me because Clara's clearly nervous. She's like, it was just an idea. And Clara's like, no, it's fine. Like, I'm just not used to people seeing things the way I do, blah, blah, blah. Lena grimaced. She had been one of those people. She'd only seen the cheap clothes, the lack of designer bags. She'd overlooked Clara, never bothering to see beyond her own narrow world. What else had she missed when she was busy trying to keep her image perfect? So I don't think you were looking over her because you were actively bullying her and you noticed her constantly. Overlooking somebody would would be, you never even interact with them. You don't even remember them from school. So like, I don't understand what we're talking about. And Lena is constantly worried during this that she's overstepped, but I think her whole existence in Clara's space after bullying her for 4 years is overstepping. But Lena loves them. They're amazing. And Clara's like, they're just practice shots. And Lena's like, no, they're not. You have a way of seeing things differently. Like, you're fighting the story. Nobody else noticed. I'm like, okay, if you say so. You just want to get in the pants and that's fine. I can't be on board for this. And there's some of Clara's hands and she's like, we need to do this and put this on the wall, and you should take like a series of everyone here's hands to show like the hands that made this place. I'm like, okay, if you say so. And then Clara's like, why are you here? And she's like, here? And she's like, right now, why are you here? And Lena's like, because this is real. And she's like, things weren't real before. And she's like, not like this. I spent my life being focused on appearances, what people thought of me, how I ranked socially. None of it was real. And this is, yes, you're real. And I don't know about that. I don't know about that. Okay, I think what is real is that you want to do Clara, and that's fine, but just stop lying to me. A panic voice inside her insisted, I don't feel this way about girls, about Clara Brown of all people. Another voice, quieter but more certain, whispered, yes you do. Having our I'm a cheerleader moment again, apparently. Clara's starting to lean back because they were leaning in a little bit, and Lena touches the top of Clara's hand, says wait, and she knows that she wants to kiss Clara. It was Clara who closed the distance between them. Her lips met Lena's softly, hesitantly, like a question. For one breathless moment, Lena froze, her mind unable to process the rush of sensation. She wants me. And they're kissing, and then they break apart, and Clara's like, Lena, look at me. And she's like, I didn't, but she thinks to herself, she doesn't finish. She's like, I didn't know I could feel this way. I didn't plan for this to happen. I didn't realize how much I wanted you until right now. And Clara's like, I know, me neither. And I'm like, love, true love for your bully who antagonized you for 4 years, and it didn't stop until not that long ago. True love. Whatever happened next, whatever this meant about who she was and what she wanted, one thing was undeniable. Kissing Clara Brown had changed everything. If you say so. Chapter 20. We're back with Clara. Clara hasn't been able to sleep. She can't remember who kissed who, but we remember because we were just there that Clara's the one who did the kissing. But okay. And her mom's like, you're gonna be late. And she's like, I'm coming. And she looks like shit because she hasn't slept in a hot minute. And she's like, it had just been a moment, an emotional night, the two of them alone in the dim light of the coffee shop, both vulnerable after sharing something personal. Didn't have to mean anything except it did. Okay, if you say so. And her mom's like, late night. And she's like, yeah, we're working on the showcase plans. Oh, Sesame, I love you, but you're dumb. He just rolled off the chair like a complete idiot. I love him, but what was he thinking? I don't know. And she doesn't want to think about the whole kissing thing. And her mom's like, you've been putting in a lot of extra hours. It must be important to you. And she's like, yeah, the shop's in trouble. We're just trying to save it. And she's like, just the shop? And she's like, what else could it be? And she's like, I don't know, but you seem happier. Yep, everyone knows that she wants to bone her fucking high school bully. Bone! Like, well, I'm just happy that you're interested in something you care about and blah, blah, blah. And her mom's like, I won't pry, but I can kind of tell something's going on. I'm like, okay, I wish you would, because you'd realize how ridiculous this is. Also, because I've read the book and we all know that they got together. How in the hell did she explain this to her mom or any of her relatives, to be perfectly honest with you? How did she pitch that relationship? I don't get it. She's anxious to go to work, but she's anxious because Lena will be there and she's worried about what she will say and if Lena regrets what happened, and she gets on the bus anyway. She's like, I'm not in love with her. She's just pretty. She's a bitch, except she's really not. Whatever you say. And Jordan's like, did everything go okay last night? And she's like, about what? She's thinking about the kissing. He's like, the showcase, because you guys were here working on it. And she's like, oh yeah, that was fine. He's like, good, because the owner's asking for updates. He's already seen improvement in our numbers. And she's like, yay. And she knows, though, because she's closed enough times and she's looked at the numbers. And she's like, that's great. And Alex comes in and she's disappointed because it's not Lena. But she's like, was she disappointed or relieved? She wasn't sure. Yeah, we all know what it is. And then Lena comes in from the back door.
Time for Enter with the back
And she thinks, God, she's beautiful. Girl, I can't defend you. They say good morning to each other. Jordan and Alex don't notice the tension, which is good. And Clara asks how the Instagram is going, and she's like, good, we're almost at 200 followers. More silence. This was ridiculous. They were adults. They had kissed, not committed a crime. I mean, I feel like it's a crime against lesbian kind. I can't even lie to you. Oh my God. And they're trying to talk about last night, but then customers are here, so they can't. Page break. They still can't talk because of the lunch rush, and it's what it is. And Naomi arrives and she's like, okay, what's up with you guys? Like, you look like you haven't slept. And she's like, I told you it was a late night. And Naomi's like, is that why you and Lena have been acting weird because of the showcase stuff? Or like, did you have a fight? And she's like, no, we didn't fight. We're not acting weird. And Naomi guesses that they kissed, and she's like, I don't want to talk about it. And she's like, okay, well, we're going to talk about it later if you don't want to talk about it here. She's like, but whatever's going on, you guys' energy are making people uncomfortable, and that's not good for business. And I'm like, okay, that's fair. And she sees that Lena's phone is getting a call from her dad, and she answers it. She's like, I can't answer you right now. Like, look, I got your text. I understand that whatever's going on is important, but Chicago is your opportunity, Dad. I never said. No, I understand what this means for the family. Yes, I know about the housing. You've mentioned it like 6 times. And Claire was like, Chicago with a housing allowance? What the hell's going on? She's like, we can talk about it tonight. I gotta go. And Clara is upset. Her mind's racing, and she's like, Chicago. Lena's family was moving to Chicago. That was hundreds of miles away. I'm pretty sure probably thousands, because you're allegedly in California. So, and she was like, Chicago family stuff, because Lena tries to be like, family stuff, and she's just like, oh, you heard? And she's like, it was hard not to. Your dad got a job in Chicago, and she's like, he has an opportunity in Chicago. And she's like, okay, but you're gonna go if all this works out, because we have to do a contrived third act breakup, even though they weren't together. Of course we do. It can't be enough that she was her high school bully. That's not enough of a deterrent from doing her. Just And she's like, when were you gonna tell me? I'm like, well, you're not dating, so. And she's literally like, it's not decided. My dad's been looking into options ever since we had to downsize. This one just came up recently. And she's like, how recently? And she's like, a few days ago. And I would have told you if I thought it was gonna go anywhere. And I'm like, this is so contrived. She's like, you don't owe me anything. Good for you. Good for your dad. And she's like, Clara. And she's like, nope, this is temporary before you get your life back on track, right? And she's like, that's not fair. Clara's like, life isn't fair. And Alex was like, hey, whatever's going on with you guys, we've got a line. So, and she can't let go of the whole Chicago. And then she thinks to herself, and besides, she was starting university soon and everything was going to change anyway. And I just wrote, so you aren't even in college yet, but like, where are you taking photography classes? Again, the actual details of this story, not ironed out in the slightest. I'd say it's fine, but I hate the romance, so like that's the only other thing for me to focus on. We're back in the DMs, and Naomi's like, you still didn't explain what happened. And she's like, nothing happened. She's like, yeah, we kissed last night, blah, blah, blah. And she's like, she's leaving. She's going to Chicago. Her dad has some opportunity. And she's like, she told this after kissing you? She's like, no, I overheard her on the phone with your dad. She's like, okay, what did she actually say? And she's like, she didn't have to. Of course she's going. And it's like, that doesn't sound like a fact. That sounds like you're assuming. And she's just like, did you ask her? And she's like, well, no. And she's like, translation, you freaked out and pushed her away. And I'm like, oh. Anyway, chapter 21, Lena. And Lena is trying to convince herself that Chicago is practical and reasonable and makes the most sense. Again, I don't understand why we're making all life decisions about you just having a crush on a girl you bullied for 4 years in high school. Hello? Like, you're teenagers. I know that teenagers try to make these ridiculous big decisions, but it's even more ridiculous because they're teenagers. He's gonna, if he gets this position, it's a VP position with a housing allowance. It's a fresh start. Everything we've been hoping for. Everything you've been hoping for, she thinks. And I wrote, okay, Troy Bolton.
You're throwing away your dream.
No, Dad. Throwing away yours.
And I feel like this whole thing does feel like a Disney special. The trying to save the struggling coffee shop that only pays you minimum wage feels very Camp Rock. We're gonna save Camp Rock. The this is your dream, Dad, not mine, just feels like High School Musical. What are we doing here? What are we talking about? Because this wasn't YA, I didn't think, so I don't understand. And she's just like, what about Mom and her friends? And he's like, she'll make new friends in Chicago and you can go to college for the spring semester. Like, the University of Chicago's excellent want and we can get you in. And she's just like, I gotta get to work. And he's like, right, the coffee shop thing. Her father's tone was dismissive, but he caught himself. I mean, it's great you're taking this job so seriously. It shows real responsibility. It'll look good on your CV. Condescension in his voice, however unintentional, grated on her nerves, as if what she was doing was just playing house, a cute little diversion before returning to the real world, his world. Isn't it? Isn't it? We're gonna get there, because whether she wants to act all noble, like she doesn't care about money anymore, but money makes the world go round, baby. What are we talking about? And she's like, it's not a thing, Dad, it's my job and I can maybe save the shop. And he's like, well, yeah, of course, it didn't mean to imply anything else. She's like, but he just had, and this is like a detour. I'm like, isn't most things you do when you're 18 a detour? I don't understand this. She thinks about how she always imagined going in his footsteps, getting her business degree, taking a job that pays a lot of money, blah, blah, blah. Like, but now she was thriving, both having fun with the regulars and her co-workers, and even more so in the last few weeks with the showcase and running the social media for the coffee shop, ... And then there was Clara, whom Lena was undoubtedly irrevocably in love with. Damn it. It's been max by the end of the showcase thing, probably 3 months. I know you're teenagers. I know your hormones are going crazy. I know you're losing the plot. But this is ridiculous. There, I said it. Ridiculous. She thinks about everything on her bus ride into work. I won't bother you with the ridiculousness. I didn't mean for her to find out that way. I didn't mean for any of this to happen, especially the whole falling in love part. Yes, we know. We were there. Thank you. Thank you. I think you should have fallen in love with Bella and gotten some more generational wealth. I'm sorry, I'm at a point in my life where I'm like, money does matter. I don't understand what we're on about. But she goes in, Naomi is here, even though the store's not open yet. And Lena's like, what are you doing here? Like, if you're looking for Clara, she doesn't start till 10. She's like, actually, I wanted to talk to you about you and your family moving to Chicago. She's like, she told you that? And she's like, she wonders if she told her about the whole kissing thing. And Lena's like, it's just a possibility. Nothing's decided yet. And Naomi's like, so what? You're all just gonna pack up and leave right in the middle of everything? And Lena's like, it's complicated. And she thinks she doesn't owe Naomi an explanation. Like, Rodriguez. It's not her real last name, but I just missed that musical. And Naomi's like, so Clara said the same thing yesterday, but it seems pretty simple to me. Your family wants to go, so you're going. Doesn't matter what you want. Yeah, because that's where the money goes. She doesn't pay rent right now. She has a minimum wage job. Why are we making these weird, like, moralized decisions based upon things that actually make sense, though? It makes sense to go with your family to a more stable thing, to go to college if that's what you want to do. Get to whatever. And Lena's like, you don't know what I want. And Naomi's like, don't I? Because you've been killing yourself working for this showcase. You put in extra hours. You made all these plans, and now you're just gonna walk away before seeing it happen. Like, I didn't say. And she's like, have you even thought about other options? You could stay here. People do it all the time. Get roommates, work multiple jobs. It's like, stay by myself? And she's like, why not? You've been doing pretty well figuring things out on your own instead of going along with everyone else. Is that a compliment or an insult? Lena asked, a defensiveness sparking. It's fact, Naomi said. In high school, you did what the other mean girls did. With your parents, I'm guessing you've done what they've told you to. Or did you decide on which college and which major all on your own? You have no idea what you're talking about, Lena snapped, except you're entirely correct, she thinks. I know you want to see this showcase happen, Naomi said. I know you've worked too hard to just walk away. She paused, then added more quietly, and I know Clara's going to be pretty upset if you leave. And Lena's like, Clara and I are just co-workers. She's like, whatever you say, girl. She's like, just think about it. You've got options, rich girl. I'm like, what options? I guess we'll talk about them later, but doesn't feel like it to me. Alex comes on in, and when Naomi's leaving, she's like, for what it's worth, I think you could be good for her if you were staying. And I wrote, she bullied your best friend. Are you on meth? For 4 whole years, she and her friends terrorized your best friend. Hello? None of these characters are smart. I'm so sick of this. But Naomi left, and Jordan's gonna be here after he meets with the owner. And someone's like, we just followed you guys on Instagram. And she's like, you should come to our showcase then. And then Claire comes inside, and Lena's heart skipped a beat because, of course, they just say morning to each other. And Lena's like, Jordan's meeting with the owner. And Claire's like, I know, he texted me. And Lena tries to say Clara, and Claire's like, I'm gonna go check on the stock for the reception later because it's today apparently. And she's like, we need to make sure we have enough glassware for the wine service. If you say so. And just like that, they were back to business, professional and distant, as if the kiss had never happened. The drama. I know they're teenagers, but I can't with it. Oh, I hope you guys get where I'm coming from. I'm 32. This is just absurd. I say like I didn't decide to stay at a college that was bad for me, for my wife. At least she didn't bully me for 4 years. And then they're in the break room together, and Lena's like, I would have told you about Chicago if I thought it would go somewhere. It wasn't a secret. It's one of many opportunities he's been looking into, but the first that seems to be going anywhere. And Clara's like, are you going? And she's like, I don't know. It's just, I don't know how I could stay here. I mean, the cafe pays, but it's not enough to live on. And Clara's like, yeah, and why would you stay here? I'm like, you're both 18. Can we stop this nonsense? And Lena's like, because I like it here, would you want me to stay? And Claire's like, it's not up to me. And Lena's like, but if you had a say, would you want me to stay? And Claire's like, you should do what's best for you. And Lena's like, well, I'm not sure what's best for me. Some would probably argue that going with my parents would be best. Claire's like, then I suppose you have the answer. And she's like, but maybe someone would say that it's not best. Then they're idiots. Clara folded her arms in front of herself like a shield. Of course you should go back to your old life, your money, your country clubs, your expensive clothes. Are we ever going to talk about what happened? Nina's heart thundered in her chest, her hands trembling. Clara's expression was one Lena couldn't read. There's nothing to talk about. It was a mistake. The word hit deep and hard. Mistake. So you should go, Clara said. Return to your old life. Why wouldn't you want that? Because I kissed you, Lena wanted to say. Because I've fallen in love with you. Because for the first time in my life, I'm doing something that matters to me. Not just to my parents or Bella or someone else. But she said none of that. Instead, she said, well, you're off to university in 2 weeks, so it won't matter anyway. I'm like, oh. And Clara's like, yep, you're right. No, this won't matter. I gotta get back, so have fun with your lunch. See ya. Like, don't forget to eat it. And then she just is thinking in a thought spiral about how this is how it wasn't supposed to be. They never should have kissed. She'll never have made things complicated. It's not that complicated. You're 18. People ghost people when they're 18. People do all kinds of stupid shit. I don't understand why we care so much about this, but okay. And she watches some work crap and is like, she couldn't ignore the growing certainty that Chicago might solve her family's problems while creating an entirely new set of her own. I want to stay, but can I? We're gonna get to it soon, so I'm just gonna hold in the rage, but can you see it in my face? Chapter 22, Clara. Clara's been adjusting the lighting for the showcase. She hadn't slept properly in days, not since the conversation in the break room, not since Lena had asked her if she wanted her to stay, and Clara had been too terrified to answer honestly. A mistake. That's what she'd called their kiss. The word had tasted like ash in her mouth. It wasn't true, not even close to true, but the lie had been her final defense. If she admitted how much that kiss had meant, how right it had felt, she'd have nothing left to hide behind. Clara had always prided herself on her honesty, but in that moment, fear had made her a liar. She'd called something precious a mistake, and the word had tasted like ash in her mouth. And she said this more than once, so I just wrote, I didn't say it to you because I didn't feel like it, but I just wrote in my notes, do you think it tasted like ash in her mouth? Why? Anyway, Jordan comes up and is like, have you seen Lena? Claire's like, I don't know. I'm not her keeper. And he's like, right. I suppose that's why you two have been avoiding each other like the plague for days. Like, whatever's going on, can you just put it aside for tonight because the owner's gonna be here. You need to show him this place is worth saving. She's like, I'm putting it aside. I'm focusing on making the showcase perfect, which is what we all should be doing. And he's like, okay. And then he walks away. But she just keeps telling herself in her head, she's a bully. She made high school horrible. I don't even like her. Yep, keep lying to everybody. I'm tired. At least own up to your own terrible, ridiculous feelings that make no sense. At least own up to them, please. Lena has the press packets and she printed QR codes so people could get the artist info. They're gonna put it up on the front table. This was ridiculous. They were supposed to be adults with a job to do. They couldn't keep acting like this. I mean, except you're 18, so you're barely adults. Anywho, they're gonna go over the schedule one more time. Yada yada. They've got it covered. And Lena says, my dad took the job in Chicago. And she's like, oh, you're going then. She's like, I didn't say that. She's like, but your family. And she's like, I haven't decided yet. I wanted to talk to you about it, but you've been avoiding me. She's like, I haven't. She's like, I've been busy. We've all been busy. And she's like, don't hide behind the showcase. You've been avoiding me since we kissed, and even more since we talked or didn't talk. And she's like, I haven't been avoiding you. I'm being professional. And she's like, is that what you call it? Because it felt like running away to me. And I'm like, okay. Lena is finally like, look at me. I'm trying to make a decision, a real one, about what I want, not what my parents want, not what's expected of me. But I can't do that if you won't talk to me about what happened between us. And Claire's like, there's nothing to talk about. Momentary lapse of judgment. Lena's like, stop saying that. You don't actually believe that. I know you don't. She's like, how would you know what I believe? You're not even gay. You've always dated boys. And more importantly, even if you did have some bi epiphany. You spent 4 years in high school not even seeing me as a person. You think one kiss changes that history. Lena's like, so you still see me as that person? And she's like, aren't you? People don't change. But then she thinks to herself, or can you? Can you change from the person who made me feel invisible in school to the person who makes me feel more seen than anyone ever has? Ugh. Some people do. I'm not that person anymore, Lena said quietly. I haven't been for a while now. 2 to 3 months is not a while, homie. 2 to 3 months is not a while. Why are we being delusional? Anyway, she's like, people don't change that fast. And Lena's like, okay, well, look me in the eye and say that I'm the same person who walked in earlier this summer. And she thinks, I can't. That's the problem. Blah, 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 blah. I do not care. And she's like, well, it doesn't even matter because you're still leaving. She's like, will you listen to me? I haven't decided. She's like, okay, but your parents are going. They're your parents. And she's like, yes, they are, but that doesn't mean I have to follow their plan anymore. I've spent my entire life doing that, and look where it got me. Not until I stopped going according to plan did something happen. She's like, yeah, you got a job at a coffee shop working for minimum wage with people you used to look down on. She's like, I came to a place where I finally feel like I'm doing something that matters with people who actually see me, not the clothes or the money or the social status, just me. And Clara thinks, like, I want to trust you. I want to trust that this is real. But also the idea of giving Lena the power to hurt her again was terrifying. See, these are the real actual problems, because how on earth can you ever trust this person? Let's just pretend, because the narrative is pretending, that Lena has changed forever and she's not a profoundly selfish weirdo. How could you ever trust her again? How? I want to know. I can't accept it. I can't be And Clara's like, okay, why me? Why of all people did you have to kiss me though? Why did it have to be me? And Lena's like, I don't know. I didn't plan it. I've never met anyone like you, someone who works so hard, who cares so much, who makes me want to be better just by existing. And she's like, I understand if you can't forgive me for high school. I was awful to you, to a lot of people. I can't change that, but I am trying to be different now. And Clara's like, I know. But also, I think it's odd that she kind of just seems to want to do you because the novelty of seeing someone who wants to actually work hard and be a good person change something for her. I think that that's profoundly strange. She's just like, then what are you afraid of? And she's like, I'm not afraid. I'm being practical. You're having some kind of identity crisis, figuring out who you are now that your family's lost their money. But I know exactly who I am and what I want. And it's not, but she doesn't answer. She's like, right, because Clara Brown has her entire life perfectly mapped out, college, career, everything in its place. No room for unexpected detours. That's not it is. You're just as afraid of change as I used to be. Nina's eyes were bright with challenge. You've built this identity around being the responsible one, the one who never takes risks, who always does the sensible thing. And now something's happened that you didn't plan for and you're running away from it. And Clara's like, I'm not running away, but she's all upset about it or whatever. And Lena's like, then prove it. Tell me what you want, not what's practical or sensible or what fits into your perfect plan, what you actually want. And Clara can't really say anything. And Jordan's like, hey, like the owner just called. He's bringing investors. Like we really needed to like get this right because it's basically an audition for new financing. And Clara's like, okay, how many? When are they arriving? And they'll be here for the opening. And he's like, everything okay in here with you two or what? And they're like, fine, in unison, which is how you know something's up. Clara's like, we should finish setting up. And Lena's like, right, the showcase. You're both terrible and you both deserve each other. And she ends the chapter by thinking, am I really running away? I mean, yeah, but honestly, you have the right to, because that's your high school bully, but whatever. Chapter 23, Lena. They're all set up for the whole thing. Everyone's there. They're having a great time. And her parents are there. They're actually proud of her for setting up this really professional, cool thing. And she gives them the tour and her dad's like, do the investors seem interested? And she's like, very, but like, we might be able to save it tonight. And he's like, this is really smart. This whole thing was really smart. And he's like, I don't understand the appeal of spending all day making coffee, but I do understand business models. I'm like, okay. Clara's taking pictures for the event. Hooray. And her dad is like, I need to know if you're coming with us for the Chicago thing. And she's drifting back to looking at Clara and she's not sure, but she's then suddenly, she's absolutely certain, as only an 18-year-old can be. Page break, everything's going great. Hooray. And then eventually everyone's trickling out and Jordan's like, I think we just saved the coffee shop. It just feels very Camp Rock. But he's gonna meet with one of them, the owner is, to discuss the details tomorrow. And Claire's like, yeah, that's amazing. Everyone's like, yay. Jordan tells them to get out of here though because he's got this. Hooray. He's like, we will deal with cleaning up from this tomorrow. The mess will still be here in the morning. And Clara and Lena are like, we could stay and do it. Like, it won't take us that long. And he's like, I guess if you really want to. And he gives Clara the keys and he's like, see you bright and early tomorrow. Don't know why you would agree to this. And they're cleaning. Clara's like, your parents seem nice. She's like, yeah, they were surprisingly supportive about everything. And she tells Clara, she's staying. She's not going to Chicago. And her dad is going to help her with some of the rent, but she's going to need roommates and to pick up more hours. She's not going to Chicago. Hooray. And she's like, okay, but what about your parents? And Lena's like, I was going to move out to college anyway. They're going to be fine without me. Like, it's fine. And Claire's like, because of the coffee shop you're staying? And she's like, well, partly, but I'm also staying because of you. And she's like, I want to stay here. I want to see what happens with the showcase concept with the social media campaign. And I want to see what happens with us if there isn't us. And she's like, I know you're still scared. I am too. It's new for me. And Claire's like, I'm leaving for college in 2 weeks. And she's like, yeah, but you're not going to be going that far away and you'll still be working here. She's like, right. And she's like, so maybe we can see where this goes. And Claire's like, it's not that simple. And she's like, because of high school. And Lena once again says, I'm not that person anymore. And Claire's like, I know, but that scares me. Why does that scare you? And she's like, well, you changed really fast. Who says you can't change back? Amazing point, honestly. I still want to go along the route of, I don't think she's actually changed. She's still kind of a selfish weirdo, but whatever. And she's like, and in some ways it was easier when you were still that spoiled, entitled girl from high school. It was safe, horrible, but safe. I knew how to feel about you. But you now, the person you've become, I don't know how to protect myself from that. And Lena's like, I don't want you to protect yourself from me. I'm not going to hurt you. And she's like, I can't promise that. She's like, no, you're right. I can't. So I'll take that back, but I can't promise to try not to. We'll keep working on becoming someone worthy of your trust. And Clara just says, I need time. And Lena says, okay. And Clara says, I'm not saying no, but this is all a lot and I need to process it. She's like, I understand. I'll wait. And Claire's like, you'll wait? And she's like, as long as it takes. I'm like, okay.
And so my watch begins.
They decide they're going to continue cleaning. Hooray. And Clara doesn't know what she's going to decide yet, but who knows. We're going to skip the DMs this time because it is the dad paying for her first month's rent. Unrelatable. Can't relate to that. And her dad wants to review the lease agreement with his lawyers. Okay. But her dad also might have found some marketing opportunities for her for freelance stuff, and he's going to send her the email, blah, 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 blah. So see, this is why I personally believe that this is still just a detour from the rich life, is because your daddy, with all his connections and the money he's reaccruing, is getting you work, is paying part of your rent, is doing all these things for you. You're doing all these things in a very rich person way where you have an insane safety net that the rest of us do not have. I have no one I can ask for help right now. No one. I'm having to do the whole Republican pick yourself up by your bootstraps nonsense. It's not fun. Like, it's just, it feels offensive to me as a working class girl who's always been working class. My parents have always been working class. Their parents were working class. I cannot stand this bullshit. Like, it... Anyway, chapter 24. Clara's going to be leaving for college, but everything except for Lena is all figured out. And her mom's like, hey, you've been folding the same shirt for 5 minutes. And she's like, what's on your mind? She's like, nothing, I'm just thinking. And she's like, about Lena. And she's like, how did you? And she's like, you have said her name 20 times in like the past week. And I'm your mom. I noticed stuff. I mean, you've been suspiciously absent from this story and the portion where you would know she's your bully, but whatever. They go over the being afraid to trust things. How do you know it's real? Blah, blah, blah. You don't know anything for certain. Everything is a risk. I think being with your ex-bully is a lot higher of a risk than just dating a regular person. But what do I know? Apparently nothing. And she's just like, what if I'm wrong about her? And she's like, then you'll be hurt. That's the way it is. But what if you're right? What if she's changed? I truly believe that this is a book that is just for all that I can fix them girlies. I really do think that. But Claire's like, I invited her over to talk tonight, and her mom's like, that's a good start. And Claire's like, I haven't decided anything. And her mom's like, sure. She's like, you're too methodical for impulse decisions, but sometimes, Clara, the heart knows things the head hasn't figured out yet. If you say so, homie. They're gonna meet up around 8. Hooray. They're working. Everyone's like, yay, it's Clara, our college-bound coffee expert. Hooray. And she's still going to be working weekends. Blah, 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 blah. And they got her a little something for her dorm room. It's a custom travel mug with the shop's logo filled with her favorite coffee beans. Wow, so kind of them to give her shop merch. Okay. They're like, we wanted to because the shop's not going to be the same without you. She's looking for Lena. They look at each other. They smile a little. They go through their shift. They've had to get 2 more part-timers. They go out back. They have some banter. It's kind of dumb. I don't know. Lena's found a place. It's a room in a house about 10 minutes and from there, and there's 3 roommates, but the rent will be manageable with the new hours Jordan is giving her. And she's gonna move in this weekend and she's proud of it or whatever. I don't think hard, difficult achievements that you've decided to make for yourself instead of clinging to generational wealth, it's like the moral win everyone thinks it is based on how the economy's been for honestly my entire life. I just don't think it's what people think it is. I would rather her have chosen generational wealth and somehow made it work with the girl she bullied for 4 years, but what do I know? Anyway, but by closing time, Claire has made her decision, apparently. Hooray. Page break. Lena's at Clara's house and she's leaving for college tomorrow, so I think putting it off till the absolute last second is kind of absurd, but whatever. And Clara, admits that she's scared. And Lena says, I know, it's weird for me too, yada yada yada. And Lena has that she's probably not going to go to college, at least not right now. I don't want to sail through on my dad's money, and I found this online thing to learn more about managing social media. Thought maybe that'd be a way forward. I think that that's weird. I think that that's odd. I don't get it. I don't. Again, Clara has no choice about riding on her parents' money, but you do. So I don't understand this. Anyway, Claire's like, you're so different, that's what scares me. And they go over again how she hurt her in high school. She can't change that, yada, 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 yada. And Clara says she wants to figure out what's between them, even though it scares her, and even though she's leaving for college and won't be around as much. And Lena's excited, and she's like, really? And she's like, really? I don't know how it will work with everything, but I want to try. And Lena's like, I want to try too, more than anything. Hooray. We'll figure it out. Yay. Ugly Shelby's time to shine. I almost did this one in one long recording session. I just couldn't make it barely. We're like 15 pages away. But they're gonna work on it together, step by step, visit on weekends, talk every day. And then they kiss. Yay. Wav. Twoo wav. But they say this isn't going to be easy, and Lena says the right things rarely are, but I think it's worth it, don't you? And Clara says yes, it is. Outside, rain began to fall, a gentle patter against the windows, but inside, in the warmth of new beginnings and second chances, Clara finally understood what it meant to trust. Not with certainty, but with hope. Not despite the risk, but because of it. Because some things were worth the leap of faith. I don't think your 4-year high school bully is worth it, but what do I know? Last chapter, the epilogue, Lena. This chapter is pretty easy to sum up, so I think we're just gonna do it because I'm done with this book. Lena is making a dinner for all of her friends, including Clara and the people from work, because those are her only real friends apparently, because she's going to be launching a small marketing business and she wants to announce it to everyone. Lena is an absolute disaster at cooking though, but don't worry, Clara came to save her from herself. Everyone gets there. They're excited because the food is edible and they know that Lena's not good at cooking still. We learn that Lena has 2 proposals out of local businesses and she's been working on it for months, and everyone's just gassing up Lena pretty much and is like, yay, you're doing amazing, sweetie. Clara gives her business cards for her new business with the logo that she chose. So cute, so nice. And Lena is happier than she's ever been, even without her designer handbags anymore. Anyway, they hug. Hooray. The end. I could have finished this last night. I'm so dumb. I didn't realize quite how little we had left, I guess. Conclusion. I gave this book 3 out of 5 stars on Storygraph and Pagebound. It was just okay. I think that bullies to lovers is not for me, and I think that that's fine. I am an enemies to lovers connoisseur, but I cannot get behind bully to lover romance. It's just not for me. I find it really repugnant. I feel like especially in this one, it was mostly like the time frame problem. But I'm gonna read a couple of things I said on Pagebound. So when I was 51% through the book, I said, I just don't understand why I'm expected to care about a rich girl who just learned about empathy at 18 years old. If it never affected her directly, she would still be a bully and still be spending more on luxury items than I'll ever see in my lifetime. She elicits mostly rage from me. I can't lie, which I stand by. And then for my actual review, I wrote, I still think ending up with your bully after only a couple months of her being different is crazy town. And I stand by that. Even at the epilogue, they have not been together that long. I think that it's absurd to be like, yes, I bullied you and made your life a living hell for 4 years. But just because I wasn't quite as bad as my friend Bella, and now I've suddenly decided I've changed and I have empathy at 18 years old simply because it started to affect me. Now we should hook up. No. I don't care if you became the most charitable person to ever walk the earth. I don't care if you're Jesus risen again. If you did that to me, I would never forgive you for the rest of all time. I can't get behind it. I just can't. I think the actual writing was mostly fine, like the actual style and the grammar and all of that stuff, and it wasn't completely unenjoyable, especially compared to some of the other ones we're going to be talking about. However, I don't think it was anything special, and bully romance just isn't for me, and that's fine. I know that about myself now. Although I've heavily suspected it for a hot minute. Please tell me what you guys thought about this one. Could you get over your bully bullying you for 4 whole years of high school and then suddenly wanting to be with you and saying that she's changed after only 2 months? Let me know in the comments. Please don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. It really helps the channel. If you made it this far, leave like a coffee bean or a coffee cup emoji. I hope you guys all have a really great weekend, and I will see you guys in the next one. Bye!